Welcome to Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup, and I'm your host, Jason Bland, and we have a guest, yes, for Memorial Day weekend, right? I'm glad you guys are here and enjoying. You get to sleep in tomorrow like I do, I hope, for Memorial Day. I do, because the wife and kids are all home. Nobody has to get up for school. It's great. So, I have a guest, but I am like dog tired. I work retail from the weekend. I had took a 3-hour nap before the show, and I feel like I still could go back to sleep. But I've been so excited to have this guest on, Tony Christie. His book is Death. You Gotta Love It, Choosing Love Over Fear in Life's Greatest Transition. Yes, we're going to be talking about death. Maybe not everybody's favorite topic or anybody's, but sometimes it is. You know, it's my favorite topic for movies. All my movies revolve around the afterlife. Some of my favorite movies, besides Star Wars and that, you know, but that doesn't. But all my other favorite movies like Beetlejuice, Defending Your Life, What Dreams May Come, all about the afterlife. And we're going to dive deep. What awaits us after death? And should we have fear of it, right? We're going to get into that tonight. And later, you know, of course, open up the phone lines for you guys to call into the show. And, of course, lots of weird going on in the World Wide Web of Weird. And we got the new 2.0 UFO release. More UFO videos released. They are interesting. So we got all that and much more. So let's go ahead and get rolling into the show. Welcome to another night of Paranormal Soup. As I said before, I'm your host, Jason Bland. Tonight's guest, Tony Christie, will be joining us after the World Wide Web of Weird, after our first commercial break. But joining me, as always, is my beautiful co-host, Jamie D. How you doing tonight, Jamie?
Doing well, thank you.
Glad to have you here. Like I said, I'm excited. We have a guest tonight. I know. We got more guests next week. We'll have Bryce Edwards for the Pond Creek Monster. We had to reschedule with him. Me and him both were having major back issues. I think it was.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, but we got him rescheduled. So next Sunday will be Bryce Edwards. I'm so looking forward to that one too. So we are getting guests. Thank you to everybody who has been reaching out, trying to help us. We're working our way towards getting more guests booked up throughout the summer. Because I love my open line shows. Last week was a little rocky with some bad calls, but I had some great calls too. But I like I do that. Yeah, I would love to forget about it, but but I love having the guests on, so it's great. Like I said, we got a lot of weird to get to, so let's go ahead and roll into the World Wide Web of Weird. Tonight on the World Wide Web Weird, I thought I'd start out about this one. About a man calling into 911 multiple times about zombies, ghosts, and UFOs. I complain, about the prank calls we got last week, right? But it ain't nothing what 911 dispatchers have to put up and try to save people's lives. And then you get jerk losers that want to call in and make a joke out of everything and a joke of what these people do for their job. He got arrested. We'll talk about it. For those listening on the Paranormal Soup, on the Talkstream Live Paranormal Radio app, we are a webcast streaming out live to Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch if you want to watch. If you want to listen, I'll narrate as best as possible. All right, let me see here. Let me get the first one here. I picture much like whoever called in last Sunday is a loser like this guy. Look, this guy looks like a loser. And oh, there's the article. Okay, West Virginia man is in trouble with the law after a bizarre incident in which he bombarded 911 calls about zombies, ghosts, and UFOs at his home. The strange incident reportedly occurred on Sunday in the community of Elkins, when Clinton Nealon phoned emergency dispatchers with his peculiar paranormal concerns. While speaking to responding officers, the Randolph County Sheriff's Office said in a press release about the bizarre bust, the man made several false claims, including that he was being harassed by numerous individuals and that he was a police officer from Louisiana. Well, that really gets you in trouble. When cops checked on Nealon's assertions, they quickly determined that he does not work in Louisiana law enforcement. Additionally, as one undoubtedly surmised, there was also no sign of zombies or ghosts around his residence, and the sky was bereft of UFOs. As such, police concluded the man had fabricated the fanciful claims for reasons yet to be determined. Nealon was... I gotcha. Reasons yet to be determined. Nealon was subsequently arrested for impersonating law enforcement and misuse of local emergency telephone systems. Good. Arrest his butt. I don't like pranksters. And he looks like a loser that lives in his mom's basement. Mama, where's my Cheetos? All right, moving on. On to Article 2, which is a video. Whoops. Hold on. I think it is a video. Yes, it is. Oh, I have to talk about this one first. That's right. I added this one in because it's all over the internet. Fox News guest. Fox News. Fake news. Robert Howard sparks wild conspiracy theories over her latest TV appearance. This has literally blown up the internet. I will.
Threatening the Straits of Hormuz, but quits exporting the Islamic Revolution throughout the region. Involved, but again, their interests are at play here. But so,
do you notice anything weird? I know they circled it for you to ruin it, but I don't think it even needs a circle. Have you seen this, Jamie?
I have, and like the eyes being too close together, and
super shiny too. Like super
very shiny. I thought
our European interest.
But look at the neck. This is what everybody's talking about. Is the looks like I'm waiting for Thelma and the Scooby-Doo gang to come in and just rip off his mask. Dare you, kids!
Lighting of this and that, reflecting of this. No, it's flapping when he talks, man.
Yeah,
just the rest of the Gulf nations.
I'm gonna mute it. I don't care about what he has to say. Yeah, look at that. They're trying to say, like Jamie said, that it's lighting. I'm not a professional in TV broadcasting, but I took TV classes, went to film school. I know a little bit about lighting. I've never seen lighting do that. I really...
But I have seen a lot of really good masks, and I've seen what happens when they're not secure at the neck when you talk.
Yeah. Yeah, Fox News guest has sparked social media frenzy with wild speculation that went on live TV wearing a prosthetic mask. Retired Navy Vice Admiral Robert Howard made a brief appearance, or did he, on the American Newsroom program on Tuesday to discuss the ongoing war with Iran with Fox hosts Bill Hemmer and Dana Perino. In the days since, the TV spot has exploded online, but not for its actual remarks about the conflict. Instead, bizarre conspiracy theories have been popping up claiming Harward, who was once tapped to be President Trump's national security advisor, is donned a mask for the interview. Viewers pointed specifically to the dark mark that can be seen near the bottom of his neck as a supposed proof of a cover-up. I'm hereby boycotting any further activities of any kind in my life until someone Googles Robert Harward Fox News mask and explains to me, like in a 5-year-old like I'm a 5-year-old. Exactly what in the B horror movie hell I just saw. Seriously, just shutting my life down until this is resolved. One person wrote on X. I don't think you need to do all that. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Are they replacing people? Pod people? I don't know.
You know
Is this V? Is there a lizard reptilian under there?
I'm seeing more and more about your likeness. EA is sold out to Saudi Arabia, and that takes over like in a year or so. But we're noticing like all these changes. Well, we just got this user like agreement that if we agree to this something or other when we play live, we're agreeing to have our likeness put into the video games playing live. And now it's considered owning a license. Like we don't own the game, even though I put $3,000.
Oh, yeah, that's a huge argument. Oh, yeah.
In the last since
You
2007.
own nothing and be happy, Jamie. You'll own
And then
nothing
it
and be
says
happy.
on
Shut
my
your mouth.
thing, my sim got a thing sent to her saying, "Oh, we'd like to buy your likeness, like for TV." Like that's the new thing. People, are just gonna sell off their likeness.
This is a vice admiral, retired. He's giving a major opinion right now on a major war that maybe we're getting a ceasefire deal, and I'm not getting my hopes up on. I don't know what's going on here, people. Like I said, I need the Scooby-Doo gang to show up and rip the mask off. And then we'll see Bibi Netanyahu behind the mask and go, "Darn you kids!"
Is it something subliminal? Like he wants to get people to catch it and think without coming out and saying something like, "Hey guys, look for the flapping neck."
I don't think it's him. I don't know.
Yeah.
Remember the Biden stuff? I was like, they got
And they pull the thing off.
They either replace Biden with a robot or Jim Carrey. This is way closer to like, I'll start believing this one over the Biden one. Like, I could have believed the Biden one because, man, I don't know. But like, you'd think they'd make, they get a impersonator to be lucid.
There were,
but
numerous.
I don't know. So that's the internet's blowing up. That we could talk about that one all night, but we got to move on. I could. I mean, like, what's going on here? Like I said, we need the Scooby-Doo gang come on in. And, of course, we have the next batch of UFOs that have been released. I've been reviewing them. I think the Syrian one is really interesting where it zips away really fast. There's another one in Persia, I think, or something like that. Where did they say? I forgot where it was. Of course, a lot of these Middle East where there's like a group of 4 really moving along and pattern. Now, could that be birds flying that are just being, I don't know. I think they would know that. But then again, they sent us a parachute flare, and it was all over the media as the biggest UFO that they released. Maybe to blindside us from the actual ones they are dropping in there that are real. I do think there are real ones they're dropping in this. But they're mixing in a bunch of crap, too, I think. I don't know. So I don't have until I see the dead alien bodies and S4, I'm not really impressed. I'm serious. Because, I believe those things are probably real. I think we have recovered crashed alien materials and bodies, and they're hiding that. So this isn't a true disclosure until that happens. So we see that, which we never will. I could read the whole article to you, but why bother? You've all seen it. Y'all are probably watching the videos. And I will be reviewing more of them. If we have another open lines night, maybe we'll look at some more of them. We're getting more little tidbits and stuff, but look what's happening. We got the DNI, Tulsi Gabbard stepping down, resigning. CIA supposedly raided her office for MK Ultra files, even though now they deny it, and JFK assassination files. There's some kind of internal war going over here over the declassification of this kind of stuff. I don't know. Your government lies to you all the time. I have no hope of them really telling us the real truth. Not without some agenda behind it. Honest liars. All right, moving on. Number 4 is image file, I believe I got. Yes, I do. We got another sphere. The Buddha sphere and everything I am interested in. I'm not saying I ridiculed because Hami Musan's involvement, other people's involvement that I don't totally like, but it doesn't mean it's not real. It's just like the Warrens. I think they were kind of shameless promoters at times, but they dealt with real cases. And there's more of these spheres being supposedly filmed. This one, a curious pair of pictures from Mexico show a sphere silver sphere that multiple witnesses reported seeing hovering over a city before departing the scene. According to local media report, the intriguing sighting occurred on Saturday morning in the city of Monterey. The two pictures of the puzzling orb were snapped by a man who spotted the UFO alongside his young son. The strange silver orb was said to have remained stationary in the sky for several minutes, making no discernible sound, and then accelerated towards the nearby Sierra de las Matras Mountains. Chillingly, the man who took the photos of the orb indicated that he and his son experienced severe headaches after seeing the strange sighting. Since being posted online over the weekend, the photos generated considerable discussions on Mexican social media, with responses largely falling into one of three camps. Some suggested that the object was an otherworldly visitor of the alien variety. Conversely, more skeptical observers argued that the UFO was probably something prosaic, such as a drone or an errant balloon. And as a sign of the times, there were others who posited the images were probably just an AI fabrication. That said, the Mexican newscaster who received the photos from the witness and the first shared them online insisted they were not the product of digital manipulation. You know, land of illusion, who do you know? And it's not, if I think it was digital manipulation, they'd look a lot clearer and they wouldn't be so far off in the distance, you know? Like, I think, this guy took really two quick photos of something he experienced with his son. It's interesting that they got headaches. I don't know what that could be about. Or it's just all fake. I don't know. We don't know. But the spheres thing seemed to be more and more popular. Something I've been really fascinated with, the Betts family, the sphere in Florida in the 70s. That's something that's always, something about spheres like this. I don't know what it is that draws me to it, like in the UFO, why that one's particularly interested in me, but I've always am. And so when I first saw the Boogosphere thing, and I know the names that are attached to it, I'm like, I'm still interested, still kind of keeping an eye on it. And now there's like, two of them. Are they real? Probably not. But I am interested, and I will keep an eye on those and more of these kind of reports. All right, moving on. Where were we
It
at?
doesn't hurt to keep an eye on it.
I am, because I'm interested, and I believe there's been reports of this for hundreds of years, of these kind of like spheres.
Mm-hmm.
It's biblical almost. All right, let's move it on. All right, true purpose of Egypt's Great Pyramid, challenged by new theory of ancient wonder, is a planetary beacon. Egypt's spectacular pyramids are rightly considered wonders of the ancient world, but even after thousands of years, there's still much about their enigmatic and impressive structures that we do not understand. Now a new study has been put forward, the idea that true purpose of the Great Pyramid is in particularly may lie in not serving as a final resting place of a pharaoh, but in enabling communication over a vast distance through space. According to the theory, the structure's precise location, proportions, and alignment may have enabled it to act as a gravitational transmitter that was built as part of a sophisticated system of cosmic scale communications. That said, author Jalal Jafri of the Laser and Plasma Institute at Shahid Bashidi University in Iran, I hope he's doing all right, has emphasized that the paper, which has not been peer-reviewed, is purely theoretical. It's hard to get peer-reviewed when you're in the middle of a war, I'm sure. While he acknowledges that the fact that gravitational effect of the Great Pyramid would be extremely small relative to that of the Earth itself, Jafar argues that over time, its repeated movement due to the planet's rotation could create small but perceptible changes. The Earth's orbit acts as a giant carrier signal, he argues, with the Great Pyramid acting as a modulator, which alters the signal. I always wondered if the pyramids had something to do with something like that. That's why I brought this up tonight, this article, is that, is this a way to transmit something out into space from some ancient civilization or marker? This is one person's theory. Sadly, they're in Iran. Hopefully they get to fulfill and do more study on it. Good luck. Sadly. All right, moving on. We get into some science stuff going on. Mad science, right? I wish I could play that still. Or weird science. Weird science. I miss playing that on here. Got in trouble. Yeah, I know. What do you guys think about this one? Firm succeeds in hatching live chicks from artificial eggs for the first time. According to reports, Colossus Biosciences, the company which recently claimed to have brought the dire wolf back, we've covered that, from extinction by creating live pups, has now succeeded in creating an artificial egg capable of hatching live chicks. To demonstrate the new system, scientists took chicken embryos and then placed them inside a special incubator that is designed to essentially mimic a natural egg. After a few days, the chicks hatched out of a very much alive and well. The firm is hoping to use the technology to eventually de-extinct the moa bird, but it can also be used to help incubate and hatch chicks belonging to currently endangered species, too. It may even be possible that one day in the distant future, something like this could be used to create living dinosaurs. We're getting to Jurassic Park, baby. Though this is not classical science's current goal. Current goal, right? The company has come under some scrutiny in recent months over its claims of resurrecting the dire wolf, which many scientists argue that the cubs, if created, are not actually true dire wolves. They're not. Still, if the new artificial egg system actually does work, it should prove to be a significant breakthrough. It would be. If you can start making artificial eggs, then you can start making your own embryos to hatch inside of them. And yeah, we are getting into Jurassic Park world then.
Have you already seen the human incubators?
Yeah, we talked about it on the show a couple years ago,
Yeah.
or a year or so ago, I think it was. They're being developed in China. But there's other companies too. There's other companies besides the one we talked about in China, I think, that are doing it. And now none of them, I think, as of yet, are successfully in doing that, or allowed to, or regulated to allow to. It's in concept right now.
Talked about.
But what do they have behind closed doors and secret military installations? You know, what are they doing? Super soldiers. That's what China. I brought up when I brought it up with China with their incubators for humans. Is the cloning program and super soldiers?
Didn't they just get like 5 kids or something that they're saying they're gonna follow, like basically for the rest of their life, because the way they were born is so unusual that it's like
it was the guy. Yeah, because they were born from that guy who did the CRISPR technology that they ended up sanctioning, and he ended up disappearing. I believe those are the 5 children born from the result of that, if I remember right. So that was some gene editing, and those kids were born from. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the whole super soldier program is you don't need a woman to incubate the soldier.
No, not at all.
Now we're talking about the Clone Wars and Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're moving towards. This is more like moving towards Jurassic Park kind of stuff, bringing back dinosaurs maybe. Their dire wolf thing is a bunch of crap. It's not a dire wolf. They didn't they didn't use actual dire wolf DNA. They basically used the current canine DNA and manipulated it to look and be like what they theorize a dire wolf is. But they are doing the mammoth. They are bringing back other animals. Animals that are now here that we've de-extincted, that we are responsible for making their extinction happen. I am kind of for us doing something to kind of keep them alive, preserve them, and bring them back. But animals that were before humans, possibly, I mean, we could be here longer, but not caused by their extinction, I think we should just leave well enough alone. As much as I love Jurassic Park and Michael Crichton, I don't think we should bring dinosaurs back. I don't.
We have an island here in California again, magically, completely, taken over by fire right now, and it's known for some of the rarest plants on Earth. Like, once these plants are gone, that's it. And
all right,
magically, it's on fire.
Well, Uber drivers, you can feel a little safer with your jobs with this current story. I don't have the video because it's a whole news broadcast. Waves of wayward whammos weirdly wander around Atlanta neighborhood. You can go to coasttocoast.am and they have the video connected there, or the news broadcast of this. But residents of Atlanta neighborhoods say their streets are being overrun by empty Waymo cars that weirdly wander around their community. According to a local media report, the strange situation began 2 months ago when people living in the northwest part of the city began noticing the self-driving vehicles cruising through the area with seemingly nowhere to go. What started as an occasional oddity turned into a worrisome trend when, as if word had spread among the Waymos, wave after wave, and it's really like that. The autonomous cars began flocking to the neighborhood, encircling cul-de-sacs like moths to a flame. It's almost like every little cul-de-sac in our area, one resident of the neighborhood said. So I think it's a problem. This was echoed by another person in the community who responded, seeing a staggering 50 of the vehicle zombie cars cruise through the community in just an hour, hoping to throw out the Waymos. One homeowner placed a sign in the street, but the tactic backfired when it wound up baffling the empty vehicles. We had 1.8 Waymos, as I say, Waymos, that were stuck trying to figure out how to turn around. I saw the newscast. It's no joke. It literally is just like an onslaught of Waymos coming to these poor neighborhoods, cul-de-sacs. They're like kids are trying to play out in the street, and these things are just going around in the cul-de-sac and turning around and slowly and clogging up traffic. It's awful. They actually pulled the program. It's got, it went downhill fast. It was the news report did it.
San Francisco, they just stopped.
It reminds me of the car. Have you ever seen Hot Tub Time Machine 2? As you have like the vehicle, like that like is an AI driven by AI, and you call it because remember I said you'll own nothing to be happy. You won't own a car.
Yes.
You looked at car prices. You won't own a car. You'll rent one, and you won't drive it either. You'll have no control over it either.
Really
you will have no choice to leave your 15 minutes frickin' city if you want to, unless you walk. Because Waymo cars or whatever they come up with, whatever the car was called in Hot Tub Time Machine is going to tell you where you can and can't go. And you can't afford a car, do crap about it. Because guess what? You are the lower class, the predator class rules. They own everything. You own nothing. And you'll be happy. You'll be happy. That's it for the World Wide Web of Weird. Our guest tonight is Tony Christie. We're going to talk about his new book, Death, You Gotta Love It, Choosing Your Love Over Fear in Life's Greatest Transition. Maybe not everybody's favorite topic, death, but it's something actually I do enjoy getting into and thinking deeply about. And like I said, my favorite movies are always about death. Tony Christie will join us after this short commercial break. We'll be right back.
You were brought here for one purpose, necromancy.
A ceremony dating back to the pre-Christian era. It's the art of reviving the dead. It requires involvement with evil spirits by the person performing the act.
The devil god brings life to the dead.
No, please. No, please,
and death to the living. Necromancy, starring Orson Welles and Pamela Franklin. From Cinerama releasing, in color, rated PG, parental guidance suggested.
If you are interested in discovering the truth about the paranormal and want to hear from leading researchers in the field, join Justin Brown on his 3 weekly shows named My Paranormal Soapbox, Necromancer Live Show, and the Supernatural Symposium, live on Facebook, YouTube, and InterfaceDeath.net.
He is conducting an experiment into the combined effects of sensory deprivation and hallucinatory drugs. The subject of the experiment is himself, and the experiment is out of control. Ken Russell's Altered States, a film that must not be missed, is in the West End now. Altered States, Certificate X.
Hello, I am Fernando Martinez. I think by now you know I am an emotional kind of guy. People stop me in the street and say, Fernando, what the hell is wrong with me? Silk shirt, hairy chest, enough aftershave to drown a household pet, but I still cannot get a woman. I tell them you are an ignorant fool. Without a symbol of power and fertility around your neck, what kind of woman is going to respect you? That is why I have teamed up with Medallion Man, the shop for medallion needs. Medallion Man caters to all levels of masculinity. For the strong, silent type, a medallion the size of a hubcap will say everything that needs to be said. Even singing medallions for the Casanova, who knows music is the food of love. Model trains, dollhouses, diapers, whatever your interest, we've got a medallion for you. Don't forget, every woman knows if you can't support a medallion, you can't support a family.
This is the sound of a space clock aboard a U.S. satellite 180 miles above the Earth. No one winds up this timepiece. It's powered by a tiny battery, a battery that delivers power for years without replacement. Now the same type of battery, the Duracell battery, can bring new reliability and long life to your battery-operated equipment. Radios, cameras, toys, all run far longer. Duracell batteries, the long-distance power cells, outlast any ordinary battery. The same type of battery that keeps space clocks running for years can bring long life to anything powered by batteries. Dura, as in durable. Cell, as in power cell. The Duracell battery, made by Mallory.
Switch to DCS ranging.
240, nominal to profile.
We're in the pipe, 5 by 5.
Tonight on Paranormal Soup, our guest is Tony Christie. Tony is a messenger of oneness, a mystic, and a spiritual teacher. He brings messages and teachings of oneness through his work. He has been working in the personal and spiritual development for over 20 years, helping people clear energetic blocks, empowering them to step into their own mastery. Tony is the author of the book Labyrinth, Your Path to Self-Discovery, and the creator of the Labyrinth Wisdom Cards. He's the founder of the new healing modality based on a labyrinth called Melchizedek. If I got that, I know that name. Labyrinth Healing, and a messenger for the Golden Sphere Energetics. Tony has presented workshops all over the world. He speaks at events and conferences to inspire and uplift those present. Tony is an intuitive energy worker, a qualified reflexologist, a Reiki Master, an Advanced PSYCH-K facilitator, certified space clearing practitioner, and a practitioner of Kriya Yoga. I probably butchered that too. But his book tonight we're going to talk about is Death. You Gotta Love It, Choosing Your Love Over Fear in Life's Greatest Transition. And like I said, might not be everybody's favorite topic, but it is Memorial Day weekend. And someday we all got one thing included in our life is death and taxes, right? Might be able to fight the tax thing, fight taxation. But not death. We're all going to go there eventually. So why not talk about it, think about it? I think a lot of people avoid it. It's something I've thought about ever since I was a child. Maybe thought about too much. And I've talked about you ever since I became a parent. I suddenly had like a fear of death. When I was a teenager, I had no fear of death. I did the stupidest crap because I didn't have any fear of nothing. That's teenagers, right? And even in my 20s, I didn't really care too much. But I had a kid at 32, and boy, man, I suddenly did not want to die. You know, so I've had my own struggles with it and thought a lot about it over the years. And I think a lot of people do too. And our guest tonight, Tony Christie, is going to talk about all that and what waits us on the other side. Later, you can call on this show, but let's go ahead and get to our guest. All right, I see him in the panel. Let's get him on in here. All right, and then there we go. Welcome to the show, Tony. Oh, whoop, there we go. I'm going to get the right thing.
Thank you very much. Hi, Jason. Hello, everyone listening, and greetings from Ireland.
All the way across the pond. Here I am complaining about being tired, and you have to get up at 4 a.m. to come on the show, so thank you.
Yeah.
I've been busy working retail job this week and all that. I got a little bit into your book, and I've had trouble lately. I need physical books more than I have trouble reading on my phone now. I have we're readers, and Gavin gives me access to these books, and I've been having a lot of trouble. I need to get a physical copy of your book because I definitely, this is a topic I would love as much as death. That sounds crazy when it comes to death, but it's something I've been fascinated with since my childhood. For you, how did this whole journey begin?
Oh, it began about 15 years ago when I was meditating one morning, and the thought of contemplating my death dropped in, and I couldn't get rid of it. So I had to follow it, and I had lots of fears. You mentioned fears of death. I had all the fears that you could think of, so I avoided it for a while, and then it just wouldn't go away. So I said, okay, one of my ways of facing fear is to go through them. So I went as deep as I could into the whole death. I have about 100 books up in the attic on every aspect of death, the before life, the before, the hereafter, and so on. And so I think actually when that thought came in, the first thing, strangely enough, the first thing that came to mind when I started contemplating was, I'm not going to have a physical body all the time. So is there something I want to experience while I have a physical body? even though I was born in the 60s, I never had long hair. So I actually decided, let's let my hair grow and see what it's like. So 6 years later, it was halfway down my back. And so I cut it up again. And then I was contemplating my death again. And I said, oh, I never had it up in one of these top knot bun things. So I had to let it grow now. So it's kind of...
So you're kind of doing the bucket list stuff.
A year or two into that, yeah. So, so in some ways, I suppose I've been on a 15-year journey. So when you're talking about fears of death and people avoiding it, I can perfectly understand it because I was there. I think maybe most of us are there at some stage, or we certainly don't tempt fate, maybe, as we'd say here in Ireland. You know, don't talk about it unless you hasten its coming, or it comes along quicker to you than you had expected. But it's something we're all going to face, you know. So I like to congratulate people on their forthcoming successful death. It's something we're all going to do. It's something we're all going to be very successful at, whether we want to or not.
Sounds like a Southern thing, like, oh, bless your heart. Oh, I'd like to congratulate you on your successful death.
Congratulations. Yes, yeah. Congratulations. You're going to have a wonderful death. You're going to be very good at it. And it'll be whatever you choose it's going to be. So it's easy for me to say that. And I'm very conscious when I was writing the book that there are people out there who, you know, death is very recent for them, or they're grieving a loved one or something like that.
Right.
So I am aware that there, you know, that this book title maybe doesn't meet everybody where they're at, but the contents of it do, you know. So the Death You Gotta Love It is a journey from where my starting point and everybody's starting point, where we were before we came to Earth. You know, there was a lot of talk of where we go afterwards, you know, after we leave here, but there's very little talk of where we start and where we come from. So that's the starting point. And then I go through every angle of death that I could come across myself to help. Well, it was to educate myself, first of all, but then to share what I'd learned on my journey so that people will realize or will get to know that there's a lot more to life, actually, than, because it's actually a book about life, not death.
Right, well,
just life through the lens of death.
You hear a lot of people that face near-death situations or have a near-death experience suddenly feel like, you know, they're more alive after it. They're more present, right? Because I think a lot of people are running around in autopilot a lot of times in their life.
Yep.
And when somebody dies around them or they have a near-death experience, it kind of wakes them up to the present, you know, what's going on, living life. You know, yeah, that's what you've been doing, you know, and take you out of autopilot.
Yeah, and almost all the accounts from people who have had death, I call them death experiences. I don't think they're near death at all. I think they're experiences of death that you come back from. So, but all the accounts are that, you know, what's on the other side, or what they experience, is more real than what we're experiencing here, which might lead some people to believe, okay, what is this reality that we're experiencing? And also that it's more loving, and they never almost have completely lost their fear of death. So right. if people who have had these death experiences have lost their fear of death, why is there so much fear among the rest of us? And in some ways, you know, I haven't had a death experience. Well, not yet anyway, and I'm not actively looking for one.
Right.
And I haven't worked in, you know, with the dying. So in some ways, I have to keep asking myself, why me, and why me writing this book? But on the other hand, I see myself almost as an ordinary person who has had to examine all the fears I have about death, go through them, examine all the wonderful aspects of it as well as the fearful aspects, and then come to the conclusion that death, you gotta love it, because otherwise you're either in fear or you're in love. Whatever your thinking is, how you speak, whatever way you act, you're either acting from a place of fear or from a place of love, and you have a choice. So that's why I've subtitled is Choosing Love Over Fear in Life's Greatest Transition. So you can be fearful if you choose. You can choose to be fearful, or you can choose to be loving. It's a choice, but it's a choice that takes a bit of a jump or a shift in your awareness to know, first of all, what space am I in? Am I in a space of fear now, or am I in a space of love? Well, I know where I'm in at the moment. No, that shifts. It moves around from time to time, you know, and certainly, you know, on your show, you have lots of things that people may find fearful, But oftentimes when they're investigated, or when you go into the the background of them and learn more about them, they're no longer fearful. So it's often fear is due to ignorance sometimes, that we don't know what it is that we're fearful of, or we're tapping into the collective fear. Society has fear.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's fear.
Well, it's instinctual.
Many things.
It's
Yeah.
instinctual.
Fear
It goes
is
back
the
to our basic
unknown.
primal nature, right? But
Yeah.
even our primal
Yeah.
nature of survival, not
Yes,
to die.
and it is a very useful very useful emotion to have at times when
Right.
when there is a real fear there. You get out of this situation or do something to remove yourself from something that is fearful. But death, I'm not so sure how fearful it is anymore for me.
Right.
I'm
Well, no, I
strangely
get
enough.
that.
Yeah, strangely enough, I'm actually looking forward to that moment with a little bit of excitement, and I don't know where that comes from. I assume I must have done this many times before, in previous lives or
Yeah.
existences, and what I met when I left this body was just wonderful. So there's still that sense of excitement there. Or even people listening, a lot of people ask, who will I meet, or you'll meet whoever you wish to meet, and if you're missing your loved ones, you'll meet your loved ones. You'll meet your loved ones in I call it the hereafter. I don't refer to the. I've what's the word? Developed a few new terms. I don't use the term afterlife because I think
Well, you
there
use the
only
word
is life.
transitioning. You use the word transitioning. So what are we transitioning to?
Yeah, we're transitioning.
That's
to,
the ultimate question.
We're
I see it
transitioning
like
to.
the next phase or the next dimension or the next part of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're transitioning to a different way of being, where we don't have a physical body. So where our energy or consciousness or awareness or whatever words you want to put on that. But even people who haven't necessarily had the death experiences, people who have traveled out of body, or people who have been lucid in their dreams, they're very much aware that there is another state of consciousness that they are in or can get to, and very, very similar to the death state, and even some people who have traveled out of body have gone to the realms, the afterlife realms or the hereafter realms, and explored, met people who have passed, had conversations with them, have learned from them. And in some ways, you may have come across the Tibetan Book of the Dead. A lot of the information that appears to be got by Tibetan previous travelers who were advanced in this out of body experiences, and they explored the other realms that are there. So it almost has led me to believe that perhaps this life that we're experiencing here is actually quite limited and restrictive, and we only have our five senses, physical senses, to experience the physical aspect, and then we rely on, some of us rely on our 6, 7, 8, all the other non-physical senses to
Well, all of us with the five senses, when you think about, it's the undiscovered country like the future, it's unknown to most people. Not for you, you have a belief. I do too. I do believe that we live on. I've seen plenty of evidence. Doesn't mean I still don't have a fear about it. Mine comes from, like I said earlier, as being a father. When I became a father, that's when I had my first panic attack, really the fear of death, I never had it. I didn't have it until I was a father. I really did. I remember there's one time I was on top of a frickin' mountain, pretty much. It was a foothill in Kentucky where my friend almost died, and I, without thought, no fear of death, slid down a frickin' mountain to catch her from falling off. I could have died. I had no fear. I had no fear that now if I were to pull some crap like that, I would be, I don't know if I could do it. My friend might have died if it would be me now. Because I guess for me, it's separation. And I know that's not how it works. I know in my mind, I know it is. I've seen my grandmother after she passed. I know it, but it's still there.
Yeah, and we often, the fear of death is widely spoken about, but for me, it's not just one fear. It's a accumulation of many, many different fears, or it can be a different fear for one person. It can be the fear, maybe even of leaving your loved ones behind, or a fear of how they're going to manage if you die. But it can be the fear of judgment. There's a lot of religions say you're going to be judged for your actions and how you're going to be, or it can be the fear of a painful death, even, or it can be a fear of what kind of an actual death will I have? Will I be ill? and so there are many different aspects to the fear of death.
Oh yeah.
And some of them are,
yeah.
For some people it's all of them. For some people it's one of them, but for others it's all of them.
For mine's just the separation from my children and my wife.
Yeah.
Like not being able to talk to them, or how it would affect them. I guess I should, as a cocky, stupid teenager, I look back now and I'm sorry, mother, how it would affect her should have been in my mind. Because I would hate if I would, now I think about, oh my God, if I had like fallen off that cliff, it would have broke my mother. As a parent, I now completely understand that. Sorry, Mom, I love you. I completely understand that. And like I said, it's crazy to me how much of a different person I am compared to my 20s or my, as a high school, because of just being a parent, just that experience alone.
I don't have kids, but I'm not afraid to die or to move on to the next level myself. What I don't want to happen is some long drawn out horrible suffering, like suffocation. Things like that have always been like really scary to me. So
I think people should think about it. What does scare you about death, and meditate on it. In my opinion, I've thought about it very deeply. What my sources of fear are. I think it's a good thing to reflect on, not avoid.
Yeah, I think it's the suffering, or having people around me suffering.
Right.
Yeah, and I mean there are some ways of leaving which are painful to experience and painful to watch, even if they're loved ones. But more and more, I mean, even the pain, 90 or more % of conditions now can be treated with pain medication, so that is the painful aspect of it. Now, again, if it's the breathing aspect, we all breathe our last breath. But before that, before getting to that very point, where oftentimes when the breathing comes labored, your consciousness will be flitting in and out of the body. That there are lots of accounts and experiences of people who are sort of moving, that deathbed, for example, deathbed visions, where people start seeing their loved ones, in a room where their living loved ones are around the bed, but they can see up in the left corner of the room. They can see, and they name the people, and there's accounts of people, a man reaching out and shaking hands with lots of different people. Nobody else could see who he was shaking hands with, but he was clearly shaking hands with somebody. And so,
I've heard,
our people will sit. People generally can often become very lucid in the hours before they finally leave. That they become. Yeah. There's a clarity that comes, almost saying, "Okay, this is my last look around here, and then I'm going to head off." But there always seems to be somebody there for you. So one of the fears some people have is the fear of dying alone. But for me, nobody dies alone. There may not be a physical person there, but there's certainly, whatever name you want to put on it, your guides or your angels or your loved ones even are there, and there are accounts of, people who can seeing their loved ones coming or holding the light for the person who is about to leave. And almost always, in the moments or hours before that, there's a calmness and a peace and a just completely relaxed sense comes over the person who is dying, whose body is dying, and who is about to leave the body. So you can train for your death, and I thought there's a chapter in Death You Got to Love It called your death training camp or something like that. I think
that's training camp. Well, that's what the book, the Tibetan Book of the Dead is really what those monks really went about trying to set up, is a book to try to make that you more conscious of the transition, because you can affect where you go in the next life or the next dimension, I guess you could say.
Yes, and the thoughts that you have, and it's very prominent in the Tibetan Book of the Dead and the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying. Whatever your thoughts are, manifest. So there's a big gap between your thoughts in this life and when they come to fruition. Or it's very difficult to see, I thought that 2 weeks ago, 2 months ago, and now it's happening. But when you're in the next realm or the hereafter, your thoughts manifest immediately. And so in the Tibetan Book of Dead, there's a lot of talks of demons and these different kind of scary aspects that you have to pass through. but they are said to be a reflection of your fearful thoughts. That if you have a fearful thought, well then you're going to experience fearful things, and you're going to experience them immediately. So the more aware you are that your thinking creates your reality in this life, the more you will be able to shift what your experience of death is going to be, and which is why I've titled the book "Death You Gotta Love It." That you've got to love being in a space of love in that moment, and when you're in the space, that's what you're going to experience. You're going to experience your loved ones. You're not going to, there are many accounts in out of body travelers and people who have death experiences where they have met, they pass through sometimes called the lower astral realms, where there's a lot of people who appear to be stuck and not in a very nice or happy space. But that appears to be a construct of their thinking, and that they maybe expected to be judged, or they didn't expect to have a wonderful experience when they left the body.
I've always wondered, my favorite, I told you, like, I have, like, my favorite movies, and it took me years to realize that I had such a fascination with death, that all these favorite movies, besides my sci-fi stuff, are these movies about death, and, like I said, Albert Brooks's Defending Your Life is one of my favorites, Beetlejuice, and What Dreams May Come. And I always loved Robin Williams' What Dreams May Come, because it's kind of like that. I mean, it pretty much is like that. And that people, you kind of create like a painting, or it's an empty canvas when you get there, and you kind of create this by your own thoughts and emotions, right? And that hell is really just an illusion for the souls that are there, that they've created themselves from their thoughts or fears or their actions.
Yes.
That they can release and free themselves at any time.
Exactly, but if you see, we're expected to know what to do when the time comes, but nobody tells us how to be or what to do. It's very, I find it very strange where I'm coming from now, and 10 or 15 years ago, maybe not, that here's something that each one of us is going to experience. Like if you were going on a strange holiday to some distant country or some South American country you'd never been to before, and you were told you're going to be going for 2 weeks, but it's up to yourself. Here's all the money, off you go. You're going to do a lot of research and find out how to get there, and how to do and how to be, or what the interesting things to do there are. But yet there's nothing like that for what we're all going to experience, the death of this physical body. And there's no, well, if you go researching in detail, you'll find it. But there's no, as I said, there's no death training camp. There's no summer camp for death, where you can. And I'm strangely reminded of a cartoon I saw called Kamikaze Training Camp, where all the kamikaze pilots were walking off a cliff.
That's dark. That's some dark. That's a dark cartoon.
Maybe not very funny, but it's like. But it's like for some reason. And this is where I think there is a shift coming in human consciousness, because people are starting to explore death a little bit more than what they were previously. It's almost like the final frontier, and for some reason somebody put me in at the forefront of it with this book, and I keep asking why me, but every time I meditate, I have lots of books in my head half written. Every time I checked in, saying what book will I finish? I said, do the death book, and so. It was like, okay, I have to do this, and I'm putting it out there, and it's like, okay, I got to the stage where the book was written. Now I'm getting to now at the stage where I'm sharing it, and I still don't know exactly. It's like what exactly all this is about, and it's very intriguing and interesting to see. Okay, where is this going to go, and it is it's got different reactions from different people, obviously. Some people smile when they see it and say yes, and other people go, oh, I'm not sure about that. Are you sure you know what you're talking about or writing about? So listen, if you're one of those, I would say go and buy Death You Gotta Love It. If you have a read through it and see, have you learned, are you more or less informed about death? And are you more or less in fear or in love after reading Death You Gotta Love It? And so there are ways of being in life as there are in death, and we choose a lot of the time how to be in life. So when things happening in my life that I don't understand, I almost stand back and say, okay, not why is this happening to me, but why is it happening for me? And what is it that I'm being asked to be?
I ask, especially with challenges in life, I go, okay, because I have a lot of guests that talk about, that we, and I want to get into this too, because you kind of get into this at the beginning of the book that I'm at. is that we choose this life, we choose our parents, we choose this path, right? So every challenge that's being presented to me, every issue, problem in my life that happens is some kind of lesson I'm trying to learn. So when I have an issue like that or whatever, I go, what is my higher self or God trying to teach me here? And I don't always find that answer. I don't. But I try to trying to gear myself into that perspective. Now, like I said at the beginning of your book, like I always talk about this on my show, and I'm sorry, I tell my own personal stories, but it's how I relate to you. And people have heard it. I'm sorry, but you talk about kids, the before they come here, right? And my son Liam, he's 10 now. When he I saw him before he was born. It was the week I was moving out of my parents' house. And there's only one other time I had this feeling. It was when I was being attacked by what you would call a demon or shadow person, and I felt God save me. It was this overwhelming, non-judgmental, compassionate, warm love. That's all I can describe it. I mean, it just filled me up. It took away all my fear, and I felt no judgment. I felt forgiven. Like I didn't even need to be forgiven. Like it's always there with me and everyone else, and there's not really a judgment. I learned that then. I felt that presence again in my parents' living room in the middle of the day, and I see this. He looks about now what he is now. His hair is long, but his hair didn't look that long, but it was his face. I could see it, this translucent boy, and I could see the face, and he smiled at me, and I felt that feeling again of God. I call it God, the source, love, compassion. I felt it enter my parents' living room in the middle of the day. And he just smiled at me. I felt him, and he faded away. That was it. Years later, here he is being born, and they hold him up as a baby. He's just born to my wife, who's on the operating table, and they hold him up to her face, and he smiles. And I knew right then, that's the boy. I already had a son before that, Dean. But this is the boy. I knew it then. And as he's gotten older, I really know that's the boy I saw. It's the smile. And he let me know the moment he opened his eyes to me and smiled. He told my wife when he was just 3 years old, I think it was, that he chose us. And he also had past life memories that that affected him when he was really young, to the point where he even told me, when I asked him, he talks about soldiers and death happening in a frozen kind of like hilly battlefield. And I said, just try to tell me the name. And what was it? I can't remember. It's a famous name of a hill in France that was a battle where a bunch of soldiers, he named it. I can't think of it now. I can't think of the name because it's late. I'm tired. But he knew a name of a French battle he would have had no idea about in World War II. That he was a soldier there.
Yeah. It's an amazing story, Jason, but it is not the only. There are many more of stories similar to that out there, and for me, this is one of the themes running through the book is that life doesn't start at birth and end at death. Life goes on and continues, and there are other examples of children choosing their parents. There's one girl whose mother was living, they were living alone. The father wasn't in the picture, and the mother was sad one day, and she said, "It's okay, Mom. I knew we would be alone, but I choose before I was born, when I was with God, I choose you because you were kind." And so it shifts the dynamic quite a bit when we consider that our children choose us, or those of us who have children, that they decide to choose us for whatever experience, experience.
That's what we talked about this. I've talked about this on the show, though. That is where reincarnation and all this stuff really sometimes is a hard pill to swallow for some people, and I get why. It's like some people. I'm very lucky. I had my biological father's a piece of crap, but my stepdad, who's really my dad, and my mom are great people, great parents. I couldn't ask for a better childhood from them. So I can see why I would have picked my mom. Maybe not my biological dad, but other people are not so lucky. I see it all the time. I see it all the time, more and more of poor, especially this younger generation of parents that I think are failing their children half the time. But people are, that's a hard pill for swallow, especially people that have had horrible, abusive parents. That I chose this destination. That's a hard pill for people to swallow.
Yeah, and it's And in the context of, if you believe you only have one life, in the context of that, it doesn't make sense.
True.
You know, it's only if you're having 10 or hundreds of life experiences, well, then at some stage you may say, okay, I've lots of happy ones. Let's try something that appears on the outside and to everybody looking to be a lot more difficult. And, you know, if that was the only, you know, children who die young or they have horrific experiences and so on their own, you know, I couldn't make sense of it. So, and a lot of famous people from Einstein to Henry Ford and so on, they said the only way that this can be explained is through reincarnation. You know, there were even I came across one, you know, interesting example of a guy called Gus Taylor, who, when his father was changing his diaper when he was young, he says to the father, "Oh, when you were a baby, I changed your diaper." And the father was kind of, "What?" He said, "What?" And it turned out that he was able to identify he was his grandfather. He reincarnated as his own grandson, so that he was his father's.
See, I always
father
wondered
and his
that.
son.
I wonder that all the time, though. Like, you know, I don't think there's any strict like system to it. Like, in a sense, like if like a grandfather's going to reincarnate as the grandson, that doesn't happen all the time. But I do think it does happen. You know, like how often does that happen? You know, do people reincarnate down family lines? There's so many questions I have, but I am a believer in reincarnation. I've had my own 2 very personal, vivid dreams of past lives that I woke up from both of those deaths, feeling them. And it convinced me that really that I've lived before. And I've had other guests that don't believe in past lives tell me those were just other spirits you picked up on their memories. I'm like, I really don't think so. And it taught me a lot about my consciousness, because I was those different people. One was a little black girl and one was a Buddhist monk. Totally different than who Jason Bland, third person. I don't like to talk about myself like that. But if you get into this, that I am this, you know, expression of whatever I am as a higher self, and they were expressions of it too. It's like letting go of that ego personality for a minute when you have that experience of another life and living it. Yeah, and personally myself, I'm aware of many lives. Let's call them past lives. I think they're all happening at the same time, and when you're in this state of awareness or consciousness, you're going to make people's brains hurt.
At the same time.
You better stop. You're going to make people's brains hurt. I get you, though. I really deeply get you on that. But you're like my wife says, stop. You're making my brain hurt.
Okay. Yeah. But
yeah, I agree.
One example, I mean, from my own experience, when I was a younger man, I used to have a problem with my stomach, not digestion-wise, but the muscles in it. So if I was standing at a football game, after a while, I'd have to go and sit down because my stomach would cramp and I couldn't stay standing. Yeah. And so maybe about 20 years ago, I was going to France. You know, you mentioned labyrinths, and I was going to learn about labyrinths, and there's a famous cathedral there with a famous labyrinth.
Yeah.
But a few weeks before I was going, I was doing a sweat lodge. I do any kind of experience that's out there, I tend to try and go and experience it. So I did this, you know, Native American Indian sweat lodge in Ireland. But I crawled out, you know, and it's quite cold. It was a winter evening. There's so much heat in these that I just lay flat on the floor and on the ground, the cold earth. But energy moved from my stomach, and it felt like it was going to be something to do with going to France, but I couldn't put 2 and 2 together, so I left it. But at the airport, my wife, my partner at the time, who sometimes sees energy, we were having a cup of tea because she was moving into my house to mind my kids while I was away. And she said, I can see a soldier in your energy, standing behind you. And I kind of went around, no, she says, no, in your energy field. And she says, is there a soldier in your family? I says, I couldn't figure out who this soldier was. So when I went to France, you know, it was kind of a learning about the labyrinth, a bit of a retreat and spending time in the cathedral. But one of the nights I couldn't sleep. So about 3:00 in the morning, I said, I might as well go for a walk. So I went off and walked out into the countryside, and the cathedral is floodlit on the top of the hill. So I could always have my bearings and knew how to get back. But coming back a few hours later, I was passing this war memorial with hundreds, maybe even thousands of names on it from the First World War, Second World War, even other wars, you know, that France were involved in. And I sat with my back to it. And for some reason, I turned around and one name lifted out of these hundreds of names. And I went, whoa, I got this shivers running through me, you know. I said, I wonder, was that me in a past life? And it was very early days when I was using a pendulum, you know, to ask yes, no answers and questions. So I asked, was it me in a past life? And the pendulum nearly took off out of my hand, giving me a strong yes. So I proceeded to ask these yes, no questions, you know, how did I die? You know, was I shot in the head? No. Was I shot in the chest? No. I asked then, was I shot in the stomach? And I physically bent over double with the pain in my stomach.
Wow.
That there was really severe cramps. I couldn't stay upright, and I was bent over in half. And when that eased after a minute or two, then I started asking questions like, where did I die? And the obvious thing, did I die in a battlefield? No, I didn't. Did I die in a hospital? No. Did I die in an ambulance? I couldn't figure out where I died. So I went down through, I eventually came to something like, did I die in a farm or on a farm building? And I got a very strong yes. And that evening I phoned my wife my wife, it keeps saying my wife. I phoned my wife every evening to tell her, you know, how the day went and see how the kids were and how was she doing. And she kind of said, her children says to her, did you tell Tony about your dream? And so I had died in a farm building, and she had this vivid dream on a number of occasions where she was a young girl, maybe aged about 16, living on a farm during wartime. And this soldier crawled into the barn. He'd been shot in the stomach, and she tried to do healing on him, or she held his head, and he died. He died in her arms.
Oh, wow.
And it was like, whoa. There's a lot more to this life and death thing than what we generally believe or allow ourselves to believe or know what's happening. And so just like, you know, sometimes we tend to reincarnate or come back a lot of the time with people that we know that they are, before we come in, we'll go around, you know, the different spirits or the different soul group or whatever name you want to put in and say, okay, I need someone to be my mother, will you? Or I need someone to play this role for me, or to be a wife, or to be a child, and to have the experience that I want to have. And then all these life experiences that all the different people have come together for you to have your experiences, and for everybody else in your life to have similar experiences, and that were brought together. I remember, you know, very shortly after I met Fionnuala, who is now my wife, I was driving in this Cork City in Ireland, and heavy traffic, you know, so it was traffic lights and a big tailback of traffic on my side, but the traffic going the other way, you know, was quite close, and that had also tailed back. And I turned and looked, and the traffic right beside me stopped at the same exact spot was Fionnuala. And we both went, whoa, what's happening here? And again, I'm getting goosebumps, you know, that I believe that everything that happens in our life has a meaning and a significance if we're aware enough to see it. And the people we're meant to meet present themselves to us, or we're presented to them. All you need is the right awareness to see and to know that. And so maybe people say, oh, I'm lucky, I had one or two of these experiences. But we all have them. It's about how aware are you, and not only in life, and that's where death comes in. The more aware you are in death, the more interesting and exciting it will be for you. So,
well, I do feel like, I'm not one to believe in predestination, but I do believe a lot of our life has different roads mapped out for us. You know, depending on what choice you choose, you go down which road, basically. You know, but like, you know, my wife, I had a dream about her when I was just in grade school. We were in grade school together. It was a very adult-like dream, all I'll say about it. But I didn't ever talk to her through high school or grade school or any of that. And we got our first date. I was like, I'm going to marry this woman. And we've had different discussions over the years and dreams and stuff. Like, if she's somebody I feel like, yeah, I've known her in a past life. And I have other people like that. You know, when you talk about soul groups, you know, it's something I really do think. There's people that are brought into our lives we've been with throughout multiple lives, you know, that we play in different parts. You know, like I like how you put it too with, you know, why do people have, like, you know, they choose a life living under horrible conditions as a child. Why would somebody choose that life? If we have multiple lives and multiple experiences to choose from, you know, it could be like, I'm going to have this experience. I'm going to learn something from this. It might be from something from the past life they got to readjust, you know, like maybe they were a bad parent. I'm not talking karma, you know, so much. I'm talking about just learning. Like, okay, you made this person feel this way, so why don't you experience it to understand it better? Why that was wrong, maybe, or what you can do to be better. I don't know if that's how it works, but it's my guess.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm a firm believer now in that we choose all these experiences, but we choose them to see how we will respond, whether we respond from a place of fear, run away from it, but we have a free will. There's a talk of free will. So it's for me, it's not somebody else deciding all these events are going to happen in your life. It's I decided before I came in, I'm going to try and experience that and this, whatever it is in this life.
Like the child said, I chose you, not somebody chose you for me. I chose you. That's what my child said. That's what these other children say. I've heard it a lot of times now from, I do find like the child perspective from this so important.
Yeah.
Because it's so unbiased.
And you mentioned the dreams, and some of your kind of awareness has come through the dreams. I mean, dreams are one of the best ways to if you explore the dreams, or if you kind of journal them or write about them, that you will see that you're getting more access into a different way of different awareness, different level of awareness, or a different level of consciousness, even where a lot of your higher consciousness, your higher self is present. And so that it's a bit like, dreams are very much like, can be a way of training for death, a way of training, because the space of the energy in a dream is very similar, by all accounts, to the space of and the energy of the next hereafter, where you move when you leave the physical body. So,
can I say something though? That is one of the things that maybe does scare me a little bit about death, is the aspect of, is it going to be, like, I've had a lucid dream. I've had lucid dreams, and me and my oldest son were talking about this because he's been experiencing a lot of lucid dreams, and those are great. And if that's what it is, like a lucid dream, that'd be cool. But if it's like a dream where you don't know you're dreaming, right? That not having the awareness, that's kind of scary to me,
Yeah. And that for me is one of the reasons that there needs to be a bit more guidance for people, or a bit more training for people in okay, this is what, when you put together all the accounts, whether death experience or the Tibetans or other people who have out-of-body experiences, this is more than likely what you will experience. Now, it's going to be different for everybody. It's like this life is different for everybody. No two people here have the exact same experience. Even if you and I are standing beside each other and we're at a concert or music concert, we're still seeing it from slightly different perspectives. Right. So it's a kind of unique. Life itself is unique, that only, and if when they take eyewitness accounts from an accident or some incident, where the accounts are taken, they're all slightly different, because everybody is coming not only from through their eyes or what they hear and see, but they're also coming from their previous life experiences. So in some ways, while we can say, that death or the hereafter, when you leave the physical body, this is what you're going to experience. You're also bringing your own sort of accumulated wisdom and knowledge over many, many lifetimes and to how you're going to be. So, but you can train yourself, through meditation or through journaling your dreams or becoming aware, or if you want to see if you can have out-of-body experience to see what that's like. There are different ways of training for your death. And so you can be a lot more prepared and a lot more ready for when the time comes. For me, one of my go-tos is meditation, and I go to all different kinds of spaces and places that I wouldn't be able to go to if I was just always in my everyday consciousness, doing stuff or, whatever I would do from 1 minute of the day to the next. I need to shut myself off for a half an hour every morning or an hour, and bring my consciousness, or become aware of the consciousness that I am, and then go to wherever I would choose. I want my consciousness to go, or sometimes where I allow it to go, that's safe for me to go. I mean, I don't know exactly what I'm going to experience when the moment of my death comes, when the moment of leaving this body comes. But I think with the practice that I'm doing will undoubtedly be of some help to me. And yet, the majority of people are avoiding, what for me is the most amazing, spectacular moment of life, is the moment when you decide to leave. We tend not to remember what it was like being born, even though some people do, and I have some memories of that myself. But we can be prepared for when we transition and when we leave this physical body. But yes, for most people, there's so much fear around it that they just can't go there. And so the way to overcome fear in any aspect of life is to take some action. And a lot of the time, the action that you can take in relation to death is to learn more about it and to find some practice that will give you some insight or indication as to what it may be like for you when it comes to that moment. It's a bit out there. I will admit it's a bit out there, and it's only on wonderful shows like yours, Jason, that we can maybe talk about some aspects of this, because other people just can run from it. And I understand that, because it is at the moment, death is seen as a tragic, sort of end of life, or it's something that, it's terrible, or it's something that, should not happen. But yet, if we see who we are, the awareness that we are, as something more than just this one life, well, then we have to choose a way to come in and a way to go out. And actually, on that choosing a way to go out, we generally choose a number of different ways, and depending on how life is going and the circumstances, which one will we take? I'm reminded of, there was a plane crash in India, but maybe about a year ago. I think it crashed after takeoff.
Yeah.
Did the pilot or co-pilot switch off the fuel switch, or there was some talk that that's what happened? And there were 260 or so people on board, and they all died, apart from one guy who walked away.
Yeah.
Now, a few scratches and bruises, but he was the only one who walked away. And as soon as I heard that, I go, well, that wasn't his time, or he chose not to go at that time.
Yeah.
And it's like people who have severe, terrible car accidents, and again, they come away without any cuts or bruises. They can walk away from them. So it was like, that was one of the options that person took, say, okay, if I choose to leave, well, maybe that's one way I'll leave. And there are accounts as well in Death You Gotta Love It of people who, there are people who are saying, oh, I'd hate to die in horrific accident or something like that. Oftentimes there's a story of two people, a couple who are driving on Highway 1 and they go off the cliff, and they said, oh, we'd left our bodies before the car hit the water. It was like, that
yes,
it's not
we've
always
talked about that a lot on this show.
Death,
No, I think that's a really good point. No, I've had a guest on here who, I can't think of his name, I'm sorry. 10 years of doing this, I lose track of who said what, but I know I had a guest on here. I remember he had been thrown from his car. But he said before that accident, before he got thrown from his car and saw his broken body, and which he was totally detached from, he's like, oh, there I am. He was no fear. Before that happened, though, he said right before the accident, something pulled him out of his body. He could see himself driving before the accident, like he was floating above himself. And then the accident, he felt nothing. And, I think that's a great, those experiences being shared. We need more people to share them that have those experiences, because people also wonder about their loved ones that have gone through this, that have died or passed this way. Did they feel any pain? That's the worst thoughts for your loved ones when you don't get to say goodbye and they died in some tragic way. Is one, were they, were they alone? And, did they feel pain? And that's what I love. I hate to say it, but I love the near-death experiences, talking or, what you want to call them, death experiences, that opens our eyes to this possibility that you're not alone when you die, that there's something there with you. I call it the force, God. Sometimes it's loved ones that come. But you're also, that these people don't feel pain, that they're taken out of their body. So when a child is the worst thing you think about. When I lost a childhood friend in a car accident when I was just in kindergarten. It was a horrible accident. I think that's one of these things that bothered me for a long time in my life, thinking about her. Did she suffer? As a little kid, I thought that was my first facing death, that same girl, the first time I really saw death was a dog getting hit by a car, and it was with that girl. We both saw it, and it was heartbreaking. And it was months later, she dies in a car accident. So my early childhood, I have reasons for, I think, my fascination with death, with these things. But, I think for parents that have lost a child, or people who have lost a loved one, to know that, one, they're not alone, and two, they felt no pain, is a big one.
Yeah, and that's one of the themes running through That You Gotta Love It, is that there is comfort there from many different angles and many different aspects for people who have lost loved ones, and so, as we were talking here about, had they a painful death, or people who die in fires, for example. Even the thought of that is horrific. But generally, it's a bit like that car crash. Generally, the spirit or the soul or whatever name, the consciousness of that person will have left the physical body before there's excruciating pain, unless they choose themselves to experience it. But again, I'm looking at this in the context of many, many lives and many, many lifetimes. So it's not like just this one incident, but there is comfort there if you educate yourself about it. But we have very little education about that. There's no subject in school called death, or exploring death, or whatever we like to call it. Now, should there be? I don't know. Maybe that's pushing it a little bit too far at the moment. But why shouldn't there be? It's that you get trained in how to do job interviews, and you get trained in how to do your accounting or your English or your maths or whatever it is. But yet there's something that we're all going to experience. And for some reason, well, maybe the teachers might be as scared of it as the students.
It's human nature. Yeah. I think it is part of our nature. That's why. I mean, it's just something that, you were going to say something, Jamie?
Yeah, may I add something to this just from personal experience? We were in a rollover accident where we first, we were hit from the back, hit a pole, did 3 complete rollovers. We were about to go over a 30-foot drop to drop us down and crush us, but we stopped and landed on our head. But the thing when this happened was it all of a sudden felt like it was going in slow motion. We felt ourselves start to go into the flip, and we grabbed each other's hands. And as we started to go into the first roll, my father had passed away a couple of years before that. I didn't see him, but the bright light, it could have just been my mind because of everything happening, but the bright light coming through the window felt like it was actually his presence, almost like wings over the car. And we held hands and had a chance to kind of say we loved each other as we were going, because we thought it was done, but we were so calm. It felt like slow motion. When it was all said and done, like we rescued ourselves out, and the responders said they couldn't believe we both lived, that because of the car being built so well is why we did live. And you can see just the disaster after, all the airbags, smoke everywhere, the dirt, the chaos. But when it's happening, it was so calm. And just like, because I had an NDE I've talked about on the show with an ex who had tried to suffocate me. And it was the same thing where you just slowly kind of go with it, and you realize like I'm okay, and you feel comfortable, and you feel love, and you feel these different feelings. It was Mother's Day, so that pulled me out. I didn't want that to be a memory for her, but I've always had very comforting feelings around these type of things.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing that. It's very important that you and others speak about these type of incidents, because that, I believe that there's somebody listening who will hear what you have said, and that they will get comfort from it. I believe everything has a significance, and everything is interconnected. So regardless of what. I mean, I didn't know before. I didn't decide before I came on what I would talk about, and you, Jason, probably didn't either. But yet, something that we're saying is going to have a meaning and a significance for somebody listening, either listening live or somebody who listened back to this. And so one of the wonderful aspects, the last chapter in Death, You Gotta Love It, is the death teachings, and they're really teachings about life, but that everything that happens is significant and everything is interconnected. That everything that we experience, even down to us talking here, and I like to bring things into the present, that there's a meaning and a significance to the stories or that we're sharing, because they're going to be relevant for somebody. Maybe even I'd go as far as saying, before the three of us came into this life, or we were in the spirit world, we'll say, oh, let's get on Jason's show there and talk about death or talk about these death near experiences, so that there will be a bit of comfort or, relief or information or wisdom for somebody else, and we don't even know who that is. But everything that we do, and so I'm down now to everything that I do, everything I say, everything I think has a meaning and a significance and reverberates out into the consciousness. And so as much as I can, I try and be aware of what I'm saying or doing. Now I have moments when I lose it.
We all do. We all do, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we all do. But I think that's an important point. I'm a big fan of Thich Nhat Hanh in his book, Peace is Every Step. And I try to instill that in my children, that if you want peace, you got to give peace. Like you only control what you do and how you feel and how you act. You can't control how others act or feel or do. And I remind myself of that every day, right?
And react.
Yeah, and how you react to things, that it's part of life, and it's hard for some people to realize that they want to believe, we want to blame all external factors for every action we do. In the end, we are the ultimate decider of what we do and choose and feel and how we react and see things. It's us, no one else, just you making those decisions. You can feel about anything any way you want to. Nobody can choose that for you. And that's just the hard knocks of life, I think, for some people to accept sometimes. But if you do accept it, it's freeing. It's the most freeing thing in the world.
Anybody can act a fool, but it takes a lot to keep yourself in check and keep your emotions in check and stay cool-headed. Because anybody can throw a fit and act a fool.
I know I have. We got to go to commercial break. When we come back, we're going to open up the phone lines with our guest, Tony Christie, and talk. You want to call in and talk about death. Maybe you've had, like Jamie. Jamie, I really appreciate that, sharing that tonight. That was incredible experience. I know you've talked about it before, but I think that was so perfect to bring that in. But anybody else, I know you've had experiences like this or whatever you want to share tonight. Now's the time. Well, not yet. When we come back from this commercial break, will be the time to call in. Call in, join the conversation tonight after this commercial break with our guest, Tony Christie, author of Death, You Gotta Love It, Choosing Your Love Over Fear in Life's Greatest Transition, when we come back.
Conducting an experiment into the combined effects of sensory deprivation and hallucinatory drugs. The subject of the experiment is himself, and the experiment is out of control. Ken Russell's Altered States, a film that must not be missed, is in the West End now. Altered States, Certificate X.
Do you wish for more paranormal and spiritual content? The Paranormal Chronicles magazine is a free digital magazine crammed with the very best in paranormal and spiritual articles and features. No sign-up, no subscription, just free reading and knowledge for you. Read today at www.paranormalchronicles.com/magazine.
Join us every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time for Weird Wednesday, the live stream, with your hosts Jamie, the Living Dead Girl, and Rob, the Phantom, where we'll talk about all things paranormal, including zodiac, astrology, tarot card and oracle card readings, live ghost boxing and spirit communication, where we'll do Voices from Beyond, the Cold Case Files. So we hope you join us live on Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time. We hope to see you there. Bye-bye.
Paranation Magazine is a new paranormal magazine based out of Denver, Colorado. Our goal isn't just to give you the best paranormal content out there, but to promote paranormal unity. We're doing this by giving everyone an opportunity to tell their stories and to share their experiences. For more information, Follow us on Facebook at Paranation Magazine, and soon, paranationmag.com.
I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like is the extraordinary travels of a young, alone, and broke psychic in the highly anticipated new book from internationally renowned psychic, medium, medical intuitive, and best-selling author Sherry Dillard. Critics have described I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like as an engrossing memoir, an empowering story of how a broken girl came to accept her psychic gift. A refreshing and fun read, I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like is available through Amazon, Kindle, Barnes & Noble, and wherever books are sold.
Wrote Spirits of the Dead with a pen dipped in warm blood. You will see the ultimate in terror with this important all-star cast. Brigitte Bardot, Alain Delon, Jane Fonda, Terence Stamp, and Peter Fonda in Edgar Allan Poe's Spirits of the Dead. Only Poe's demented genius could bring to the screen such horror and evil. Spirits of the Dead stars Brigitte Bardot, Alain Delon, Jane Fonda, Terence Stamp, and Peter Fonda. Directed by three masters of the cinema, Federico Fellini, Louis Malle, and Roger Vadim. Spirits of the Dead is an adventure in terror beyond your wildest nightmares. Spirits of the Dead in color is rated R.
I've seen things you people wouldn't believe. Attack ships on fire off the shoulder of Orion. I watched sea beams glitter in the dark near the 10-house gate. All those moments will be lost in time. Like tears in rain. Time to die.
You're listening to Paranormal Soup, bringing you the weird every Sunday night. Call into the show and join the discussion. The call-in lines are 219-230-4444 or 260-225-9419, or by Skype caller ID 00JBland00 or JBland Paranormal Soup. And now to your host, Jason Bland.
Tonight's guest is Tony Christie, author of Death You Gotta Love It, Choosing Love Over Fear in Life's Greatest Transition. I am opening up the phone lines. Best way to call. Yes, it's still the bad phone line, I know. I gotta get time. I need like 3 or 4 people to test it and stream live to test it. So we're gonna find a way to do it here soon, I hope. But the 219-230-4444 is probably the best way to call in. Just you might hear some fade out if you call in from us talking, but we should be able to have a conversation. And with our guest tonight, Tony Christie, have you had a death experience or something that you believe about life after life? You know, where do we go? What do you think? What's your feelings? What's your experiences? Call in. Join the conversation with our guest, Tony Christie. But let's go ahead and get back to our guest. All right. Phone line should be open. Call in. Join the conversation. But let's go ahead and get back to our guest, Tony. All right. Let me get him back on here. There we go. Thank you, Tony, for staying on with us early in the morning for you over in Ireland. We're talking about your book, Death You Gotta Love It, Choosing Your Love Over Fear in Life's Greatest Transition. Jamie is sharing the links at times in the from the Amazon in there for the book for people to check it out, but you can easily type this in. You'll find it there for sure. And I definitely, guys, think you should check this out. Don't be afraid of death, right? We need to face it, think about it. You know, I think a lot of people are on autopilot and look away from it. And I love having you on, Tony, tonight to delve deep into death. I got my Creeping It Real shirt on for it tonight here.
Yeah, I was just thinking during the break, you know, we've been talking a good bit about past lives. But for a lot of people, I also work energy healing with people, one-to-one healing with people. And I found over the years that the more I worked on myself, the clearer I became, and I've become quite sensitive. So when working with when somebody that I'm working with raises an issue, I will get a sense very soon, very quickly, if it's this life or if it's another life. And I'll always ask them to see if the person, and most of the time the person themselves know. I was saying, is it this life, do you think, or another life? And they go, oh, it's another life. And so it might be something physical that's happening, or just some emotional block, or they find it difficult to. A common one is people find it difficult to speak or to express themselves. And invariably, and a number of occasions, when we've tuned in or when I've tuned in and we explore it, that they've had a previous life where they were either someone in importance or where they had a power in how they spoke, whether they were a leader of the people, but in those times, maybe their tribe or their community was attacked by someone else. And these people were either had their throat cut or they were hung for their beliefs, or that, so they now carried over a lot of the energy of that previous life in not being able to express themselves, or a fear of being able to express themselves into this life. But as soon as it's identified, then I also have just found techniques for separating. I can separate out the energies of the past life so that they no longer impact the person themselves, and the people can actually feel the shift in their energy and the clearing, whether clearing in their throat or they're clearing whatever it might be, some other part of the body. Oftentimes people are stabbed, sometimes people say that expression stabbed in the back, that people will feel here in my back as if somebody is stabbing me in the back. But that I can feel if somebody was stabbed in the back in a previous life and it's been carried over into this life, where they feel people are out to get them, or they don't trust somebody. And yet the act of removing that knife or that dagger relieves immediately, what that block was. And it's if I stand back and think about it, well, from where I am, it makes perfect sense. But it's like that majority of people think this is the life, and this is the only life, that whatever I say and do in this life is all that impacts it. But yet there are many, many lives and many experiences from other lives, particularly traumatic ones, that carry over into this life. And if you don't realize it, well, then your life won't be as fulfilled, or as, you won't be living life to the full because of this hindrance that's coming from another life. But that can be changed, and it can be shifted, either through someone like me or somebody else, or people working on themselves and finding out. I mean, I spoke about, my stomach earlier on, that actually what I forgot to say is that my stomach was fine once I had that experience of the past life and been bent over double in this life. I never had that issue with my stomach.
Never had it again, right?
Yeah.
I have a friend and a guest that's been on several times, Chris Lee, who does past life regression, right? And his whole point of it is that it will, basically, like a lot of times, like with me, I did it with him, and he was trying to help me with my throbbing fingers, arthritis issue in my neck. I did help some with my neck. My neck popped during the thing, which was weird. But in that, he took me back, and I saw myself as a woman who was accused of witchcraft, and that they basically left and forgot about, chained up to starve to death. And I hung myself with my own chains. Right, that's what I saw. Now that, to me, he has a lot of clients that have that experience, and like the literally the ailment goes away. I didn't, but I also feel like I wasn't very deeply under. He says that shouldn't matter, but I was trying to do it in a chair like this at my computer through a Skype call. I'm like, it's hard for me to, like, I had that experience, but it seems so detached from it, like unlike my vivid dreams. And I'm not definitely check out Chris Lee if you guys are interested in stuff. He's helped a lot of people for doing this. I just think we had bad conditions for me, so I still have some neck problems. Maybe I'll try again. As I say that, I feel like my neck just lightened up. That's so weird. That's a weird feeling in my neck right now. That is weird. Okay, I'll try not. I'm trying to concentrate here. It's a weird feeling. Anyways, as I think about it, that's weird. See, Chris is someone on what Chris Lee does. I really do believe in him. And Debbie Anderson, his wife, is a medium. But the vivid dreams I had, the two that I had really explain about how I'm wired the way I've always been since I was a kid. I've always questioned authority. I've never had a big like, and I mean, this could admittedly come from my mother, who she's now a Buddhist, but back in the day, she, never like she bashed religion or anything like that. But I knew my mom wasn't a huge fan of organized religion. I read Eric von Daniken's Chariots of the Gods when I was 10 because it was my mom's copy, to see how she felt about the Bible and stuff like that. But generally, I think as I was a child, I was completely wired. I was antagonistic towards organized religion. I'm not now. I'm not antagonized this. Maybe I am still organized religion, but the people who are spiritual, be it Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, I'm not. I'm respectful to them now. But when I was a kid, I was a little cocky and teenager, even worse. After those dreams, it did change me because one, I was a Buddhist monk. And in that dream, I had this understanding, of that I was in a temple. And my, I guess, master, I wouldn't say, they wouldn't call him a master. I'm trying to think. The guy who's running the temple, basically. The guy we were all expecting to give us the answers to enlightenment. I walk in on him smoking opium. And I turn him into these soldiers. They're wearing gray suits or like gray uniforms, and they have just basic kind of rifles, like very primitive rifles. And I turn him in. Like a Judas, kind of, right? And then later in the dream, how things progress in this dream, this memory that I'm being shown, but I'm living it. I'm really that person. They raid the temple and just start killing everyone. And that's not what I wanted. I wanted them to come in and remove this person who had lied to me. That's how I felt. And they lied to me. They betrayed us. And next thing you know, in the dream, I'm running through this jungle. And I come to this like ridge line. There's like trees and stuff. I can see it in my mind right now. And I see these boots in front of me like I'm trapped. And I look up and I get shot in the chest. And that's how I woke up, like sweat and panic. Like I felt the bullet hit me, So that explains my distrust of religious organizations and anybody who tries to proclaim they have the knowledge, right? Or a cult leader, or religious leader. I have a distaste for it wired in me. I go all the way back to my earliest memories of how I've always felt about it, and I've always challenged it. The other one, I was a little black girl who stuck up for my mother to my slave master, who was also my biological father. And he beat me to death with a broomstick. It's like all this knowing, like I'm experiencing it, but I'm outside of it in the dream, and I have a full well knowing that this person beating me to death now was my biological father in this life as well, who didn't want anything to do with me, and that would explain a lot. But both of it explains my wiring is I hate bullies. I've always had a way of always wanting to stand up and speak out against anybody trying to override or control or own somebody else, even if I don't agree with that person. If somebody's trying to own them or control them or force them to do something, I'm going to be the first to be at their side to defend them. I believe in like freedom. It's ever since I was a kid, I've been that way. And it explained a lot.
You definitely advocate for them, for sure.
Yeah, it's back to, I suppose, everything is interconnected. Can I just say, when you were talking about that past life where you were hung as soon as you mentioned your neck popping, like my head went. I could feel.
It actually is weird right now. It's like totally like relaxed.
Yeah, and I won't go into it too much, but it's almost like your head is still a little bit to the right.
I've had a neck problem for like 10 years.
Since you mentioned it, yeah.
For 10 years, I've had this neck problem. I've had this neck problem for like 10 years. I'm 47, going to be here next month.
Yeah.
And I was about 37 or so.
And
it started just.
Like wait, what's he saying though about your neck though?
Do you feel like your neck or your head is tilted a little bit one way than the other?
Yeah. Always
to the right, or which left?
I kind of go like this a lot, or ask my wife. I'll sleep like this.
Yeah. So it's like the chain. Normally when we think hung, like the knot is at the back because that's what you see in all the movies. But often it felt like this was on this side, and so it jerked the head that way, and you're still carrying
my
that
head like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So
no,
you can,
I totally get it.
maybe not now, but you can do it afterwards energetically. Just get your hands as if you're moving your head and just keep juggling it until it straightens. That's kind of some. Yeah. Oh, you can do it now. We can do it now if you want, but I can.
But it was weird. I'm talking about it, and I
thought.
finally. It's weird, like you say, face these things, and I've talked about it before the show. But I'm talking about what I experienced, and I'm like bringing up the visual imagery I was getting in my head, which isn't as like it's not as big as a physical impact as the dreams. And at the time, Chris Lee,
relevant information you just kind of get out of nowhere.
But as I'm talking about it to you guys, I did feel like my neck suddenly just relaxed through here, which doesn't happen very often. So that's a weird experience. I'll have to talk to Chris Lee about that because he's always wanted me to come back and do another session. Because he's like, well, I know we can help you. I know we can help.
Yeah, I could feel some of the healing happening. Sometimes the talking about it can bring about a healing or a part healing of it, So, and this is some of the work I do that. It's very difficult to explain because it's in the moment and it's individual with each person, depending on whatever it is that happened to them, that it's a bit like my stomach, that it influences this life, but it can be sorted or fixed, so, and I have a lot of, go on.
Oh, I was going to say, I've always wondered, I've talked about it on the show, is it like, I always felt like, why would people carry these pains and issues they have from a previous life if they're completely unaware of it? How does that help them, right? What is the purpose of those scars being there?
Yeah. Sometimes it's as much the emotional as if it's actually primarily the energetic or emotional scar, my understanding or my experience.
Right.
That it's the emotional scar that comes, but there's a physical aspect to it, as I said, maybe my stomach at the time. So you see, I mentioned my understanding is, my knowing is that all lives happen at the same time. And it's like you have this stream of energy coming in for this life to give you all these experiences. And you have streams of energy coming elsewhere for all these other lives. And there's a slight overlap and the slight overlap is the past life memory or the past life condition that you're bringing through. And so once there's a technique I have for separating them out. And so, and separating them completely so that this life stream is clearer and purer. But oftentimes we come in, people call it karma, which I don't really believe in karma, but I believe that we have some of these overlaps of life experience that are happening, and we choose maybe to come into this life either deliberately bringing that overlap to see if we can find a way of resolving it in this life. Or it's either deliberately we bring it in or it's accidentally coming in. But either way, once you separate them, generally that condition, the emotions of the condition, and oftentimes then filtering down into the physical body condition also clears. So it's a bit, can I fully explain it? No, but as I said earlier, I'm sensitive enough this is kind of the work that I'm doing more and more with people, when they're coming for an emotional issue. Almost invariably now, it's more and more not even say a past life, an other life issue that's filtering through into this one. But it can be fixed, or it can be resolved, usually it can be resolved. It's a person is open to, and generally the people, like when you were talking about your experience, it felt like you were almost reliving the experience of the witch or being hung, so you were right back in, or the Buddhist monk even, that you were back in the energy of it. And so when you're back in the energy of it, that's when the opportunity and the opening is there to change it or to shift it, that experience.
I definitely, like I said, Chris Lee wanted me to come back to do it again. He's right. Because he could tell I was struggling to try to get into the zone of it, because of the situation, how we were trying to do it through a Zoom call and all that. And he's like, we'll try again. And I never did. That was years ago. Sorry, Chris. He's awesome. You go check him out. I have him in the
Wasn't there a
advertisement.
drain or something in the back or something that kept going
Oh,
by?
it was all kinds of, it was everything going wrong. And Chris is awesome. And
Every
it's just,
time you would start to get there, it was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's nothing on Chris. It was like literally everything that could be uncomfortable to not make me relax was happening at the time of our scheduled time to do it. I would love to be in person with somebody to do it, especially Chris at all. We do have a phone call if you're ready for a phone call.
Yeah.
All right. Who do we got on the line? I think I know.
Hello.
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 How you doing?
Good evening, Jason
Hi.
and Jamie and Rob, wherever he is today.
He couldn't make it tonight,
Um,
but thank you for calling in, Azariana.
Yeah, you brought up a good point, and I think your guest brought up a good point also. When you were remembering your past life and, the thing with your neck, okay? I remember a lot of my past lives, not all of them, but a lot of them. And I I remember fragments of them. And, but I keep them as either learned lessons or things that I have to, I can't think of the word.
It's all right.
Move forward from that past life. That's not even the right term. I'm sorry. I can't explain it right.
I'm lost for words a lot of times tonight, too. I'm tired. Sorry. But I get what the gist of you're saying, I think, here.
Yeah. But,
like, I kind of do understand what you're trying to say.
Go ahead, Azariana.
You're kind of fading in and out.
It's all right. Go ahead and say what you're going to say, Azariana.
I was going to say that I don't, as much as I might want to heal that past life, that makes me who I am right now in this life, in this meat suit here, And I think that in a way, maybe if I did correct all the stuff from those past lives, would I be different? Would I forget them? Would I be like a total blank?
You want to chime in on that, Tony?
Yeah. In relation to past life memories, I believe we have them all for a particular reason. So all of the ones that I have had have generally related to some aspect of my life in this life. If they're beneficial ones, well, then it's nice to remember them because they're enhancing this life. But if they're detrimental, if they're ones that are traumatic or ones that are negatively influencing how I'm behaving in this life, well, then why would I want to hold on to it, or why would I not want to heal it or to clear it? So my experience is the negative ones that I've cleared, I haven't forgotten about them, but they're no longer that overpowering or overbearing, very strong energy that they were when I became aware of them initially. So it's not like you're going to forget, but if there is some aspect of that memory or that previous life that is not conducive to living a fulfilled life in this life, well, then why would you not look to have some healing of that? And as I said, I haven't forgotten those not so nice ones, so I don't see that you'll forget them. But if they're coming up for a reason. Everything happens for a reason, and so why you're having these past life memories is usually to prompt something in this life or to choose differently in this life. Maybe you made a choice in another life that wasn't, maybe if you had your time around again, you wouldn't do. But now in this life, you can choose how you want to be, whether it's with other people or with yourself even.
Yeah, I could get that. I could get that. There have been 3 times, possibly a 4th time, when I almost had pre-death experiences, let's say, in my lifetime, in this lifetime. And I credit all my guides and angels for kind of watching over me and helping me understand why I wasn't again, forgetful. Can't say it the right way.
It's all right.
Why I wasn't, why I had obstacles to do that stuff. That would put me in that situation. You know? You know?
No, I totally get what
Maybe
you're
he
saying.
has ideas on that. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, well, again, you're never alone in the experiences you're having. So even though you may be alone, appear to be alone in this life, we always have other, spiritual guides or angels or whatever name you want to put on those working with us. That you agree before you come in that the experiences you're going to have, you agree them with your sort of master teacher or your spirit guide. And then they or others will be with you when you're having these experiences. So that you seem to be able to pick up or to be aware that you're not fully alone when you're having these experiences or these death, near death type experiences. But it's almost as if, there may be, if you're willing to explore them, there may be there's often wisdom and knowledge and greater understanding of all of life in these experiences, whether they're close to death or whether there's experiences, even if you're having experiences that there's some other presence there with you and it's a benevolent or a supportive presence, well then that is there, and that's something for you to become aware of, even for many more of us to become aware of, that even though we may appear to be alone, that we're not alone in this, and that there is help and support. There is support there for us in everything that we do, and particularly when you feel that it's not there, that you can actually call on it and it'll be there for you.
Well, thank you very much for answering, and thank you. And this is a great show, and I will definitely look into your book. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Jamie and Rob.
Thank you,
And
Zariana.
as always, blessings to everybody.
Blessings
and
to
their
you.
fur babies.
And I got chickens now too.
And your chicken. Yes, your chicken.
Oh, that was
Your chickens are smart, by the way, Jason.
Tell me how smart
Chickens
they are.
Very smart.
Tell me how smart they are, because last night, I swear to God, sorry guys, it's the update on the chicken situation. We got these baby chicks. I swear to God, my wife texts me. She's out of the she's not home, and it's late at night, and she's like, "Can you go check on the chickens, make sure they're in the coop, and lock them in?" I go out there with my flashlight. I look under the thing where the chickens would be outside. I see nothing. I see no chickens. I close the coop door, go to bed. I get up this morning, I look outside, there's all the chickens under it, and the coop door is closed. What the hell? How the hell did they get out? Me and my wife, she's like, "You must have missed them curled up in a corner." I'm like, "I swear to God, I took the flashlight and looked and everything." Oh, no. That's still boggling my mind. So thank you, Zariana. Super chat member, she's part of the YouTube channel members and a Patreon, a big supporter of the show. Thank you so much, Zariana. I love you.
Thank you, Jason.
You have a great
good night. Bye.
Shameless plug. If you want to become a Patreon member, the links are in there. If you want to become a YouTube channel member, it does help pay for the show, or super chats. Because they're not letting me monetize the live show anymore, by the way. I have to monetize it afterwards, and then if somebody watches it, then I get credit, right? I don't know what's going on with YouTube on that, but screw YouTube. But anyways, I love Azariana. And those, I think one of the biggest hurdles for people when it comes to death is the unknown part of it. What's going to happen, and people sharing their experiences of near death or dreams and visions, or what your book. People. Hopefully, I think there's more of awareness in the Western civilization now of like reincarnation and past lives than there ever has been. And I honestly think if that awareness grew in this country and in the West compared to where it is in other parts of the world, we gain more acceptance of it. It would change society somewhat. Change how we view the world.
Yeah, and it's almost always referred to as the unknown. But from my understanding, and some of the some of the examples and accounts mentioned in That You Gotta Love It, is that we have a lot more control over, or a lot more influence over, the experience that we have at death and after death than is generally widespread known, or that we give ourselves credit for. So your state of mind, well, how you live this life generally determines a lot of what you're going to experience. Not necessarily that it's a judgment, but that the experience that you gain in this life, are in relation to who you are and how you choose to be. That's what you will carry into the next life, and particularly the your state of mind at the time. So it's important that you prepare, for your death. And it's not widely held belief how do you prepare for it, but you generally
Right.
prepare for it by having the best possible life that you can have. And again, even reading accounts of people who have had death experiences and people who have out of body travel, that there's a whole realm, and there's a whole infinite realm out there in the hereafter for you to experience. And if your beliefs are kind of traditional religious beliefs, or say traditional Christian ones, that you'll meet Jesus or God or St. Peter at the pearly gates, well, if that's what you believe, that's what you will more than likely experience. If you want and believe that you're going to meet your loved ones, well, then you will. If you want to go on some wild adventure into sort of far-flung realms of the world and consciousness, well, then that's what you'll experience as well. So it's not generally widely known or accepted that you have a lot more control over the experiences that you have in the hereafter. It's because it's not explored. Partly, one of the reasons I wrote That You Gotta Love It is so that people will be able to explore or investigate, the different realms and the different dimensions that are there. And, in some of them in my own experience, in my own meditation, that they're, depending on your level of consciousness or awareness, it determines how much you're able to explore or allowed to explore, if that's the right term, because there are energetic barriers, if that's what we'll call them. Different people experience them differently, but I experience like a cloud, and some of the clouds I can pass through into another world or realm, and some of them I can't. So depending on what space I'm in, or depending on my current level of awareness, I'm able to travel to some, but the very high ones I can't. I'm not able or ready yet to go and experience them. So
it's like, is it like your energy level, kind of like your vibration that they talk about? Like you just are not going to sink into that realm yet because you're not there yet.
Yes, exactly. And that's why, I believe that people who are on a spiritual path, they're looking always to refine their energy, to refine their thinking, to be more loving, because love is a very high vibration. The more loving you are, the higher energy you are, so that the further you'll be able to go or explore in the death, let's call them the death realms, or the realms of the hereafter. But if you believe one particular fixed vision of what you're going to experience, well, then that's what you're going to experience. If you've no belief, you'll either revert back to the collective, maybe, if you were reared as a child in a particular religion or a particular belief, well, then you may divert to those
to your
beliefs.
roots.
Yeah. If you believe there's nothing there, well, then you'll experience nothing for
how
a
long,
while
you wonder?
anyway.
For a while.
For a while.
I wonder that. Like my father-in-law, he's had some personal, family. He had a family tragedy in the family. They lost his sister, and he's very cynical about this. Like my mother-in-law, she's Christian. My father-in-law, atheist. We've talked about it. He doesn't believe you're dead. You're dead. That's how he is about it. Part of me always thinks about atheists is like, yeah, there's something in the back of your mind that still thinks there's something. There's part of me, maybe I am biased, and I would never say that to him or anybody, but I get why he thinks that. And for some people, they've suffered through life so much they just don't want anything to go on, I think sometimes, or some of them it's fear, the actions they've did, they just say it, and like there's nothing because they don't want to think what will happen, But what I experienced, like I didn't have a near-death experience, but the shadow person experience I had where I was attacked by this thing for months, and then it ended with me being levitated up off my bed and me basically choking out, God help me. I felt this presence in my room that was, like I said, overwhelming, compassionate love, no judgment. And that's kind of been my guidepost ever since of what I believe awaits us. It's not, I didn't die. I wasn't having a near-death experience. I actually saw a great-grandfather of mine in that experience. When this presence came into my room, there was a big bright white light that came through my window, and this shadow being just screeched and was gone. and a man walked through that white light for a split second. I'm on the floor of my bedroom. I had been dropped off my bed, and I saw him, and he kind of like gave me a little bit of a stern look, and then like a little bit of a smile. But it was like the stern look was for like you were messing around, and then you found out, you know. But also there was love there, just love. There was no judgment, really. There was no judgment and on anything. And I have stuff in my past, even as an 18-year-old at that time, that I regretted, you know, things I did in my childhood, you know, things, all these things, insecurities a teenager would have. And it was literally at that time washed away. Now they all come back, you know, the fears, all that stuff. But in that moment, I was the most peaceful moment I've ever experienced. And to me, anybody's talks about what God is or the afterlife or whatever, my measurement, from my perspective, is always judged by that experience. Well, to me, God doesn't care about any of this. What he cares about is love. Just love. Love thy neighbor. Love thyself. We're so hard on ourselves all the time, right? And that's what I realized at that moment is this forgiveness. There's not even a forgiveness. You don't need to be forgiven. You're here for an experience. What have you learned? I love you. I'm always with you. That's what I learned in that experience. And if I could have everybody experience that, I think it would change the world. You know, I'm not any holier than anybody. I still have my worries and fears. God knows everybody's heard them on here. You know, it didn't change me drastically. I didn't become enlightened, but it did awaken my eyes. And that's like the standard I set spiritually to anything when it's told. Does this match up to my experience of what I believe God, or I also call it the force, you know, because I don't look at it as some just entity. I feel like it's something that's with all of us at all times, always there. You just have to recognize it. And it's always trying to talk to us. That's why I like calling it the force. I'm a Star Wars fan. Through synchronicities and everything else. It's always there.
And that's a very good term for it, Jason. The force, you know, it's for me, it's an energy and a consciousness, and it is all knowing, all intelligent, but yet it's also a part of who we are. It's a part of who you are. And my understanding or my belief is that the more, you know, you mentioned love, because you know that's the intense feeling, the overwhelming sense of love that a lot of people who've had that experiences have. And it's almost like that we come here to have these experiences to see if we can choose love more. Can I choose in whatever situation I'm in? Can I choose a place of love rather than fear? And that's one of the reasons I wrote this book, because death is one of the greatest fears. And so if we are able to choose to love the transition, that moment of death, or, you know, it's not, I don't see it as a scary, you know, skeleton in a hooded cloak with a side. You know, I see it more like a loving matronly woman, you know, with a beautiful smile on her face, you know.
You're wearing a shirt with the exact thing you just talked about.
Becky taking me in her arms to help me move into the next level. But it's
right.
It's
that's exactly it. It's exactly it. No, I've always compared that experience to my grandmother and my mother's hugs when I was a kid. You know, that feeling when your mom or your grandma, my grandmother gave the best hugs. Sorry, I love you, Mom. You give me great hugs too. But I always remember, it's that warmth, that feeling of just, they love you no matter what. I understand that now as a parent, you know, so much more understanding about love when I became a parent, you know. You know, at 18, that was like, changed my perspective. And then I had kids, and my perspective about love even changed even more. It's these, that's what it is. It's these connections, these relationships with people. That's what you're here for right now, right here. You know, nothing else matters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And just, getting back one more thing about if people believe there's nothing there and they find themselves in that nothing space, as soon as you start thinking that there's a little bit more than the nothing, then that's what you'll start experiencing. And there are a lot of helpers, you know, so there's a lot more and more people actually ending up in that, there's nothing space for a little while. But there's a lot of helpers and people either in this who are still alive or people who have passed in the spirit realm who are looking to get messages or getting a little inkling of, there's something more here. And, you know, there is a lot of help there for everybody who passes in whatever form that you need, whether it's you need to recover from the traumas of this life, or whether you find yourself in certain parts of the hereafter where it appears like there's nothing there or you're stuck. But as soon as your thoughts come around to thinking that there's a little bit, there must be something more than this, well, then you've opened up the doorway really for you to move into, the more vibrant and more fulfilling areas of the hereafter. So it's down to whatever you believe. So be careful, not be careful what you believe, but become aware of what you believe. And your belief is
right.
If you keep thinking the same thought, that becomes a belief. So whatever your thoughts are, that's what you're going to experience. And even in this life, if you go around thinking, oh, the worst thing is going to happen to me, the worst thing is going to happen to me, or this terrible things keep happening to me, well, then terrible things will keep happening to you. But if you start shifting your belief and say, okay, I'm open to wonderful things happening for me, or oh, I'm very lucky, or I meet the right people at the right time, or when you start shifting your thinking and your awareness, it starts shifting the reality. Now, again, there can be a lot more of a delay in this. The energy is very slow and heavy here in this realm, so there can be days or weeks or even months or years between the thought you put out there and it happening. But if you look back over your life, that a lot of the thoughts you have where you are now is a result of some of the thoughts you've had previously. And we don't give ourselves enough credit for the creative force that we have that's working through us. So if you believe that God, or whatever name we put on it, source energy is a creative force, but that's also working through us as we are. I sometimes say to people, you are creation in action, or you are creative force in action, that there is no separation, that we're all interconnected, and that the more aware you become, the more you realize or come to appreciate that there is no separation except in our minds, really. Now, for my journey yet, they say, oh, you and I are one. Or we're all one. It's too big a jump for me even to make at times. How could I be at one with somebody who's doing some horrible things?
Right.
But for me, the start of it is becoming aware of the other lives that I'm leading, past lives. And, if I become aware of them, well, then I'm at a higher consciousness that can see, oh, there's all these different lives that I had or I'm having. So if I step it up another bit, well, then I realize, oh, there's somebody else having all these other lives. And then we're at the same level. So become at one with other people. And you step up another level, which I'm not there, occasionally pop into it, spike up into that consciousness or that level of awareness, that is actually, that there is less and less. The higher up you go, the less and less of me there is. I found I had to start asking, who am I? And in the exploration of trying to find who I am, the reason that the more I find out who I am, the less of me there is. It's a very strange kind of concept.
I know exactly how you feel. No. That's what I'm saying. Like, I've said on the show multiple times, I wish people could have one. What if everybody one night had one dream of a past life being somebody else, another personality you've lived in. It's like, what a wake up call that would be to people to realize you're much more than this facade you put out that's been shaped by this world and experiences. There's so much deeper meaning to you than that. I would love for everybody to have that kind of experience. It won't make you enlightened. It won't do any of that, but it will wake you and start you on the journey, maybe, of understanding that you're so much more than just this consciousness, this personality you put forth to the world and what you feel on the inside, even, that there's a bigger picture to it. I remember my wife reminded me of the name of the battlefield. It was Colmar Pocket in France. That my son named. I had to go up there. She was watching the show. And I remember my son was really, one day when he gave me this name, was really broke down about the dreams he'd been having since his earliest memories. He would have these crying, like hysterical, mad, angry fits we could not explain,
Didn't he even know the name of the dog that ran around on the property at one point?
No. I don't know. I think you're confusing that with something else. He just knew the name of the battlefield, which is Colmar Pocket. He said, what I'd asked him, I said, can you give me any names? Is any names? Because first I asked him, describe me what you're seeing. And he said it was it's like cold. It's really cold, and there's bodies that are just frozen. My friends have left. That's what I dream. My friends have left me. I'm all alone, and these soldiers come, and I'm killing people. That's what he says. And I'm a bad person. I'm a bad person. And he, in his mind, what he's saying, the stuff is that he was a German, so he's a Nazi, right? And he's like, so I'm a bad person, I'm like, no. And what I explained to my son at that time, what came to me, and what I've always kind of thought is like, when it comes to past lives, like you were this German soldier, nobody's bad or good. Everybody's having experience. Everybody's been the bad guy in a story at one time. Everybody's been the good guy. Everybody's been the victim. Everybody's been the victimizer. We've all taken our turns playing a part to learn. So there's no judgment. This is a new life. This is a new experience. He was crying to me. He's like, I don't want to be a soldier again. I don't want to die in another war. This is a couple of years ago. So he's 10. This was when he's like 7 or 8. He seems to be over it. Most of that's faded now after that conversation.
Yeah.
But I'll never forget it. And like I said, my best thing I could explain to him is that there is no judgment, and that we've all played a different part in different times of our past lives.
Yeah, and it's that issue of no judgment, and the issue of coming back to have all these various experiences. And oftentimes people ask, why is it children that that have these experiences? Well, it's because the children are a lot closer to the spiritual realm when they come in, and they haven't had as many experiences in this life to kind of get them more tuned into the physical, just having a body and all their surroundings, that they're a lot more aware of, knowingly or unknowingly sometimes. It's usually, oftentimes it just pops in, they start talking about, that, like your son starts talking about his experience, and there's no way he could have known that the name of that
Right.
battlefield,
He just said Colmar, but I looked it up in a Colmar pocket, he's a Colmar, something like Colmar, and I just started doing research, and I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
And it describes, that in December, it was in December of 1944. They were into 45. They were fighting from like November to January, whatever. In December, the big, real bloody battle happened, and it would have been frozen in France, frozen bodies on the ground and stuff that he's describing. I mean, this is it. I mean, and he's always had like his bedroom has like camouflage on the wall. He's always been fascinated by soldiers and war, even though in his mind he was crying, saying, I don't want to die and fight another war. There's still the back part of him that's still connected to it, fascinated by it.
Yeah. But I think he obviously chose you as a father or parent who would be open to hearing what he had to say and would have words of wisdom for him, to help. Again, he chose well.
He also chose a very anti-war father too. That will go.
Well,
I will go tooth and nail to keep anybody from drafting my kid. I will go to revolution. Hear me, government? Revolution. I will do. I will be out on the streets before you let you take one of my child for war.
And so just as past lives have a lot of influence on our current life and, inform them or, positively or negatively in certain aspects. I mean, there's also the whole issue of future lives or lives beyond this realm that, well, once you get used to the concept of past lives, oftentimes the concept of the future, experiencing future lives, and I can only speak from my own experience. I was doing maybe a year or 2 years ago, I do a standing meditation in the morning, just allow the body to move. And I found myself doing these Tai Chi type movements, that were, I said, where is this coming from? And then I realized, I'm after drifting into actually what's a future life in Japan,
Really?
So when, I have a few, I have a few of them, but it's not out of for me, it's not out of curiosity or a novelty. Now, when I link in, and oftentimes when I'm working with people, I can link into one of these lives and bring through either practical exercises or energetic practices that they can use, that we use to clear something or to, this one of where I shift past life or another life. I call them other lives now, influences. And so for me, where I'm exploring, I'm not only exploring past lives and future lives, but also other dimensional lives. And that middle name Ærcyus is I've met a version of myself that's having an experience on another planet or realm.
I didn't say it because I don't know how to pronounce it. How do you say it?
Yeah, it's Ærcyus. Yeah, you can't Google it. That's how I think you spell it. That's how it's.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not going to try that one. I'll let him say it tonight. Ærcyus. I wondered, so that comes from what you saw as like a future life.
Yeah. Well, it's a life actually
or another dimension.
Even more so, it's a life in another dimension where I was in a meditation and I met these 15-foot tall red beings on another planet, and another completely different realm.
I had that experience with a cousin of mine.
And
we were having dreams about 15-foot tall, or we called them Orions, whatever. It was weird.
Yeah.
We're both sharing these dreams about, and they were trying to like train us about something. We were in our 20s, and I was teaching him meditation. We both simultaneously, like same night, had a dream about these tall aliens. That's weird. You gave me goosebumps.
and you know, when we met, he introduced himself. I had already known one of my meditations and asking who am I and where I had got the name Ærcyus. But then when I met this guy, I says, who are you? And he said he's Ærcyus, and our foreheads touched, and it's like our consciousnesses merged. It was very, very strange. And I had been accessing a lot of geographic symbols, and I don't know how big, and you know, something like this, you know, just so nobody can see that or not.
Get that up there. Wait, hold on. I want to get that image up on the screen. Yeah. Is that like the Kabbalah? Or...
Yeah. It's a way of integrating all your energy systems. That my version of me in another dimension is sharing with me, I suppose, or that I'm accessing this information. You know, so. But all of them have let's see, he's getting another one just here. Here's if you can see that, one as well.
I got the camera focused.
They all have a golden sphere at the center, so they're three-dimensional, but they're not just shapes, they're energetic devices. They've all moving parts. And they all have golden sphere of infinite unconditional love at the center. So it's I have one, I don't have it here with me now, called the Love Transmitter, where people come together as one to merge their heart love energies and to amplify that, and just to send it out to the world, to anyone who's open to receiving love. And so it's you know, I sometimes wondering, okay, I'm still asking who am I, because I haven't figured that out yet. You know?
Who has really?
I'm never going to figure it out. But it's almost as if, you know, okay, I'm here to share as much as possible how to love more. And there are different ways of sharing it, either through these shapes of infinite sphere of infinite unconditional love at the center, people coming together to work together with these to be a bigger community source of love. And even in the book, like That You Gotta Love It, that it's mainly about love, you know, rather than fear. It's shifting from fear to love.
Right.
And I believe that that's where humanity is on its journey of transitioning to a new way of being. Now, when you look in the wider world and what the media is putting out there, it's all fear, and war and disease and so on. But it's deep within each individual. There's this sense of love and a yearning for love that is an inherent part of who we are. And it's ultimately why we chose to come to Earth at this time. And again, you know, from my understanding and knowing is that, you know, despite how it appears that some people are acting and behaving, that we are all sort of quite advanced on our spiritual journey. You have to be to come to this earthly realm or this dimension to have choose the experiences that you're having. First of all, to be in a space where before you come to Earth, that you can actually decide, I'm going to choose very traumatic experiences in this life to see if I can love more. It's like a challenge. Yes.
It's a challenge.
Yes.
Can you love under these circumstances?
Almost like dare I call it a game, but that's probably pushing it.
I do though. I do. We're going to be coming to commercial break, but really quick, because all night I've been thinking about this, because I've done this on their show, and I talk about it with my kids and wife, is that, you know, or not even a game, even a book. I've tried to delve into writing. My 14-year-old wants to be a writer, and I always said this to my 14-year-olds, you know, one thing I learned in writing is kill your darlings, right? You have a favorite character, you want a dramatic experience on the story that's going to touch somebody, kill the character. You know, kill somebody off, right? That had meaning, you built it up, and emotional meaning, right? Because when you go into a book or you go into a video game, you know, like you're engulfing yourself into the story, right? You're becoming that character, and there's got to be stakes and all that stuff. I think that's what life is. in a sense. We choose a story to be a part of, and it's got to have some stakes. We can't know that it's just a book. We can't know that it's just a video game. We can't know that it's just an experience we chose. We have to have some forgiveness to have the stakes, to understand love, like when you have loss of a loved one. You know, the understanding the meaning of love. Because without the stakes, like if you get into a video game and you're given all the cheat codes and you can live forever in the video game and have all the resources, what do you do with the video game? You put it down, you're done playing. You know, it's boring. And that's human consciousness.
And that's what happens in this realm when you have all the cheat codes, when you've played it so many times, when you've played this game of life hundreds and hundreds of times, you know all the cheat codes, you know how to be in a space of love. You don't need to be here anymore. So then you go off and have your experiences somewhere else, right. Or else you decide to come back and be a support to other people who are still trying to figure out how to be in this life, or how to be, you know, how to choose. Yeah,
don't hide from the video game relationship. I think that's something, it gives it, you know, the biggest one, one of the things I know you probably have never seen this show, but it's called Rick and Morty. And I'm gonna leave you off with this before we go to commercial break. But they have this.
I've never seen it. Yeah.
Yeah. So Rick and Morty are a crazy adult cartoon, and they end up in this like Fuddruckers space station. I call it Fuddruckers because it's got arcade games, and Rick wants to go there to play this game. What is it called? It's the life of somebody. Basically, you hop into this game, and in a few minutes, you're going to experience this person, Roy. Isn't it Roy? I think. And you're going to experience this Roy's life, like, and you get to play it out however you want, but you're going to forget who you were, and you're going to play it out, and it's going to seem like a lifetime, and then you wake up from the game, right? And as part of me, I'm like, the writers of that show, I think, are delving a little bit into the idea of what the reality of this is, you know, that we are, in a sense, choosing the experience. I just love that episode for that. We're going to go to commercial break. We only got a half hour left, guys. If you want to call into the show, wait till we come back for commercial break to talk to our guest tonight, Tony Christie, author of Death, You Gotta Love It, Choosing Love Over Fear in Life's Greatest Transition, when we come back.
Intercepted transmission of unknown origin.
Transmission? Out here?
SOS.
Human.
Unknown.
Alien. Certificate X. Exclusive engagement at the Odeon Leicester Square. Now.
Any systematized transmission indicating a possible intelligent origin must be investigated.
I will hear it.
In space, no one can hear you scream.
If you are interested in discovering the truth about the paranormal and want to hear from leading researchers in the field, join Justin Brown on his 3 weekly shows named My Paranormal Soapbox, Necromancer Live Show, and the Supernatural Symposium, live on Facebook, YouTube, and InterfaceDeath.net.
This is an APAC studio presentation.
Hi, I'm Barry, owner-operator of Barry's Barometer Barn. Lately, I bet you've been lying awake at night asking yourself, how many barometers do I really need? Well, at Barry's Barometer Barn, we think you need more than one. Otherwise, we're gonna go out of business. Remember, at Barry's Barometer Barn, we don't know the meaning of high-pressure sales. Come on, folks, buy another barometer. I'm trying to put my kids through college, I've got a family to support, and a secret mistress who isn't cheap.
Visit Barry's Barometer Barn, 000 Storm Drive. Come on, folks, buy a barometer. I'm Barry's older brother, Larry, and every time one of you people walk past the store without coming in, Barry beats me.
This has been a presentation from Tim Morgan's APAC Studio. For more almost professional amateur comic studio content, visit the APAC YouTube channel. Search APAC 2002. That's APAC 2002 on YouTube.
When Alex Gardner is asleep, he has an extraordinary gift. The government wants it, the scientists want it, but to keep it may cost him his life. It might be better if Alex didn't sleep at all, but he cannot resist entering the dreamscape. Can you? See Dreamscape in the West End and all over London now, Certificate 15. It takes an extraordinary adventurer to enter the dreamscape.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from Talkstream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Join us every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time for Weird Wednesday, the live stream, with your hosts Jamie, the Living Dead Girl, and Rob, the Phantom, where we'll talk about all things paranormal, including zodiac, astrology, tarot card and oracle card readings, live ghost boxing and spirit communication, where we'll do Voices from Beyond, the Cold Case Files. So we hope you join us live on Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time. We hope to see you there. Bye-bye.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Heat 'em up. Do, re, be gone.
Paranormal Soup, bringing you the weird every Sunday night. Call into the show and join the discussion. The call-in lines are 219-230-4444 or 260-225-9419 or by Skype caller ID OOJBland00 or JBland Paranormal Soup. And now to your host, Jason Bland.
We've been talking to the wonderful guest, Tony Christie, author of Death, You Gotta Love It, Choosing Love Over Fear in Life's Greatest Transition. I know it's a heavy topic tonight, but it's a topic I actually do enjoy talking about, is death. Because it's, like I said, it's something we're all going to face. It's something we're all going to. It's something I've been curious and wondered about and questioned about, feared about, and thought about all my life. I've thought about it. I do think there's a lot of people who don't think about it. But eventually, at some point, death has a way of touching you. Death has a way of cutting through, as I say, and excuse the French on this, the bullshit. It eventually is going to touch you. Eventually, you're going to have to think about it. And I really highly suggest you do. As Tony is pointing out, this could affect your whole transition. This could affect your whole next life. You know, you're all going there. Taxes and death. That's what's the guarantee. That's what we're talking about. The phone lines are open. If you want to call in, join this discussion night. We only got less than a half hour left. So let's go ahead and get back to our guest. Thank you, Tony, for sticking with us this late at night for me and early in the morning for you. Actually, you're probably early in both for us in the morning now. But we've been talking about your book, and like I said, this isn't everybody's favorite topic. I get why, but it is one of mine. Like I said, all my favorite movies are all stuff that a lot of them have to do with death. And I love the way Hollywood or fictional or writers all approach it in different ways and look at it. What Dreams May Come, between Al Brooks's Defending Your Life, all these different ways. And we've, people have been thinking about death since the earliest philosophers. It's definitely something humans think about. At what point in their life, at some point, they will think about it. What is your takeaway tonight? Like, even for the people who are like, I'm super spiritual, I totally already. What do you think is the biggest surprise to them in all this? Even for the people that are really spiritual.
I think one of the biggest surprises when people pass is how not that they're expecting it to be, how they can influence what is happening there. Even though you hear about it, the experience of being able to have your thoughts manifest instantly, no matter how advanced you are, is going to be a somewhat of a surprise, because and in one way I'm looking forward to it, and in another way I'm not, because I still haven't fully managed to be a master of all my thoughts, and so
right.
do thoughts.
I've thought about that. What I think that point is really, I've thought about deeply, is about why are we here, and why are we in this body? Why all these compared to like something like What Dreams May Come, where you make your reality. It's a blank canvas and it's created by you. Well, maybe the body is the filter, the training wheels for the afterlife. As entities in the afterlife, any thought that we have, feeling, whatever emotion or whatever we are there, can be manifested instantly. Here, like you said, energy moves slower. So we don't instantly bombard ourselves with whatever reality we want. It's a path and a story. We're like a book. We're following a path, certain paths. So it's like a filter from keeping us and maybe helping us to learn when we get over there how to, like you said, be more aware of our thoughts and our emotions, and not letting them control us.
And as well, I'm not sure if we mentioned it earlier, but that you can create, if you want to have, the big house and the wonderful food and the fast car and whatever type of life you want to create in the hereafter, you can do that. That we are more powerful creators than we give ourselves credit for. But these manifest immediately. So if you want whatever you want to have in the afterlife, but having things that we think we'd like here, creating them in the hereafter, it actually gets a bit boring after. It can get a bit boring after a while.
You have all the cheat codes.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And again, this life and having this body. I mean, I'm looking. Sort of stand back and look at humanity and the developments. And there's a lot of virtual reality games now, and for me,
I'm a big virtuality player right here.
For me, they're actually a reflection of maybe, that the more sophisticated the virtual reality games get, the more they're reflecting, or prompting us. I wonder how much of a virtual reality are we in? Am I dreaming? Am I in a big game and where I can influence what's happening, or where I have, almost like I have eyes to see what's happening. It's almost like I have an avatar type body, that has, cameras as eyes and has, microphones as hearing. And so the blurring between the virtual reality and the actual reality, if there is such a thing, is less and less clear. And if this world that we're living in is a virtual reality game type scenario, well, not only what is the purpose of it, but who created it. And a lot of people reject the idea of that this is a simulation because of, who's driving the simulation?
Right. They think of the Matrix, are we big batteries and some kind of pin somewhere? I don't think that's it. But it is similar.
I believe that we are the ones who have created this reality, that we and our very highest consciousness, whatever that is, decided that there's lots of other realms out there, but this is one particular realm or experience that we can choose, our consciousnesses can choose to have. as a learning experience to have all these not so nice things or wonderful nice things happen to us. So to choose to see how we get on with it and to see will we able to advance our consciousness. Again, I keep bringing it back to love, which is why there's the love in the title, that you gotta love it, is to see how much we can be in a space of love regardless of what is happening. Not to be in a place of blame, a place of fear, a place of, condemning other people, but to be that compassionate, loving being that I think is our essence, is the truth of who we are. But we decide, let's throw everything I'll throw everything at me to see if I can shake myself out of it and see how quickly or otherwise can I bring myself back into this space of love. So it's you look at it like that, it's then life becomes, the meaning of life or the events of life take on a whole different color or different hue in that. And even all the paranormal stuff that you would be talking regularly about on your show, the ghosts or whether, the not so nice paranormal stuff that happens. What is the purpose and reason of that? Well, it's so that we can choose how we want to deal with it, how we want to be with it, how we want to look at it. Again, whether we want to be in a space of fear. And I can guarantee you, if you're in a space of love and can hold the space of love regardless of what's happening, it's almost like when that light came through, when you were having that experience in your room, that was a light of love. And it just, love. Exactly. What's that phrase? Love conquers all, or amor vincit omnia, or if you're into the Latin, that ultimately it's about being in a space of love. And if there are people who are caught up and trapped in certain situations, the more love you can bring to it, the more it'll resolve a lot of the negative stuff that's happening. I do energy clearing of houses and properties, so I've come across different scenarios, let's put it like that, and when I check in almost anything that will impact, the beneficial energies of a place, whether it's curses or black magic or entities or vortices or portals. And it's the only way I can do that work is if I hold a space of love, because if I get into fear with anything that's happening, it just amplifies it. And I can't help the people who are living in those houses, or, because it's only through being in a place of love and holding that high vibration that the clearing energy that I do will actually work. So it's,
I mean, I think that's sort of for people from any religious perspective, they get in a state, no matter what religion it is, that, for people that are committed and have their faith, they reach that state of love, and it has a power, that can clear a home or, change somebody. People, you feel it around people that have, are very spiritual, doesn't matter what religious background. I've met Christians I felt that from, and I've met a Buddhist monk I felt that from. I don't think, and nothing knocking organized religion. I'm just saying that many paths lead to the Dharma, as Buddhism would say. There's going to be different paths for everybody this way spiritually. But in the end, the only answer, if it doesn't align whatever religious practice you're going to with the idea of love, then it's not true. It's going to bear anything fruitful for you. That's my guidepost. Yeah. And if you are able to talk to these people, who are, whether they're Christian or Buddhist or Muslim, or who are in that space of love, they don't see themselves as different from other people who are similarly in other religions. Right. The more people are in a space of love, the more similarities they see between people. And this is almost back to the whole fear and love extremes, that the fear divides and separates, and the love unites and brings together. So it's like there is the more you're in a place of love, the less separation and division there is. But a lot of what we see in the media, what's put out there by whether it's politicians or it's put out there it's to keep people in fear and to bring about a situation of them and us. There's a bad guy out there. Down through the years, there's always the bad guy, whoever it is. It could be Gaddafi, it could be Russia, it could be Cuba, it doesn't matter who it is. There has to be a bad guy out there
to keep people in fear and to enable, those who want to enable them to fulfill whatever their agenda is. So if, I still believe we're moving to a place of love. I don't always see how it's going to work out, but I believe that more and more, the more I hold a space of love, the more it's open to other people holding that space. I worked for over 30 years as a senior manager in a big organization, but I had a little quote over my desk, who is the Sri Krishnamurti, which went like, what you are, the world is. And without your transformation, there can be no transformation of the world. And so anytime something was happening in the world that people were complaining and giving out about, and isn't it terrible, I would tune into myself and say, okay, whatever's in me that is reflecting what's happening in the world. And so the more each one of us individually can hold a space of love, well, then the more everybody's in a space of love. It's
like I said, my favorite Buddhist monk was Thich Nhat Hanh, and that was his little book and his most important book. I love his other books, but it's a very small book, pieces every step, and I think it's such a valuable idea that you can't change what anybody else is going to do. You can only change what you are going to do. And if you want peace, you want love, you want compassion, you have to give it. You can't expect other people to. You can only choose what you do. And you have to create that. You have to do it yourself. You have to make those choices and choose how you feel and choose how you react. If you want peace, then you have to give it.
Yeah. And to choose the similarities rather than focus on what we have in common rather than our differences.
Right.
My father used to say, if we were all the same, the world would be a very boring place. So it's not about it's not about being the same, but it's about choosing not to focus on what's different about other people and looking at what we have a lot more in common that we have in differences.
The media is like I complain about it on this show all the time. They've heard it so much about how the media tries to put, like you said, fear out there on everything. Because fear sells. Fear gets your attention. It's part of your survival instinct. Attention at news at 10. This might kill you. You're paying attention. They got your attention. That's the mechanism that sells for them. It's like the monkey hitting the button, and the pleasure button was also the button for like, we got your attention. We're going to go with this button every time because it gets your attention. And, it's not a lot of happiness, and there's not a lot of, it's a lot of division. And, you got those stupid culture wars. They try to get us all arguing and fighting with each other because there is a bad guy. I will point out in all of this, there are people out there that are playing the part of the henchman, the bad guy. Maybe that's their journey or their path, but there are forces out there that are evil. There are people that do evil. And they want to enslave us. I call them the predator class. And the best way they can do that is to destroy love, to keep us from finding those commonalities between each other. That we all want to see our children grow up to a better world, no matter what our differences is. If you're a parent, we all want, to live our lives with our families and have these experiences in peace. We can find those common grounds. We all want to eat healthy food and drink clean water. These are commonalities. I think people will come together eventually and finally start seeing past all the manipulation. I hope. That's my hope.
Yeah, I came across a wonderful quote which said something like, we are all doing the best we can with the knowledge, understanding, and awareness that we have. And that can be applied to the most spiritual of people, and it can be applied to your suicide bomber, the people who are going around killing others, because they believe
there's no exception.
It's their knowledge, their understanding, and awareness is at the level that it's at. So it has helped me a lot to allow people to be what they've chosen to be, but that I'm going to choose what I'm going to be or what I am as best as possible. So, but in relation to fear, particularly fear of death, it sells wonderfully for insurance companies, or it sells wonderfully for the beauty industry, to try and make you look younger, to believe that, maybe if I look younger, death won't come as quickly, or whatever it is, So there is fear of death is sometimes intentionally and other times unintentionally put out there into the consciousness to see if we buy into it or not. Now, I still would have bought life insurance policies just because.
Yeah,
of,
not saying don't do that. You take care of your family.
Well, exactly. The family will have to survive in this game, if that's what we call it. So if I can get them a little bit able to do that a bit more comfortably, well and good. But it's still about recognizing that a lot of advertising now is based on fear.
Oh yeah, I mean, look at what COVID did to people consciously. I saw a huge shift and change in consciousness, I think, during that time.
Yes, but one of the there's always an advantage. There's always a plus in everything. Everything was shut down during COVID, but hundreds, millions of people got online, and people interconnected more because of COVID than they would have if COVID didn't happen. So it's almost like COVID. In one way, it was generating a lot of fear, but in another way, it was bringing people together in more of a community.
Exactly.
So it's like the advantages of COVID. And I you mentioned Melchizedek Labyrinth Healing. I was meditating one morning about 10 years ago, and it was how to work one-to-one with a labyrinth and form of healing. But I hadn't done anything with it. I had the whole programs. And then when COVID started, somebody says, do you do this training online? And I went onto Facebook and I just put a post up there. Anyone interested in training in this, just get in touch with me. And something like 20 people were interested. And so I had never, because if it hadn't been a COVID, would I have done it or not? I don't know. Maybe.
Everything's a challenge given to you to stand, to make a choice, right? And you did.
What's that phrase? Opportunity and adversity. So there's whatever is happening, you can see it as adversity, or you can see it as, there's an opportunity here to either think differently or to act differently or to do something that's different than how I might have done it in the past. And oftentimes that's what the experience we're having are for, to see, okay, will I choose a different approach than what I've always done? Because maybe if I kept doing, if you keep doing what you always did, you'll keep getting what you always got,
Yeah.
And so
definition of sanity.
Yeah. Everything is new. Even every moment here is new as we're speaking, So, yeah.
Yeah, no, but that's the beauty. And like I said, with COVID, it's like it had a lot of things. It woke people up. It gave people. I've had guests on this show where their spiritual journey began more than once because of COVID, right? It got them to stop and reflect. So everything has a purpose, and in the darkest of times, it's hard to see that purpose. But from the outside, later years down the road, we kind of can see. I think the thing that got people for me, it got me to stop eating fast food and think about my health. And seriously, it did, and it got me more looking into what we're putting in our bodies, be it through the dreaded VAC. I won't say anymore, or YouTube will come down, or or what were the toxins in our food. It started a whole health movement in this country that I think it's taking more and more people are becoming aware of.
Yeah.
So that's what I've seen. It's like when you're faced with a challenge in life, this is one of those things that I remind myself of, like, what am I supposed to learn from this? What's the force, God, trying to teach me here?
Yeah. And so speaking of challenges, death is probably one of the biggest challenges that most of us are being faced with. So this discussion and this book, That You Gotta Love It, is an opportunity to choose differently. To choose, that society has put a frame of thinking around it that we've all bought into so much, and I bought into it. The sadness, the grief, and they are lived experiences. But is there another way of approaching death, and is there another way of looking at death? And that's where Death You Gotta Love It. The theme running through it is you can think differently, you can create differently. When you know what it is about death, the more you know about death, the more able you will be to choose the death that you want. Actually, in one of the chapters in the book, I write about these advanced spiritual masters who actually are aware of the time and of their death, or choose the time of their death. There's one Lahiri Mahasaya, who an Indian guru, who one day he just he was standing up and he said, "Oh, I'm going home," and he turned around 3 times. He faced north, sat in the lotus position, and left his body. And there are several other examples in Death You Got to Love It, where people were so attuned or advanced or so aware of who they were and the conscious that they were, that they predicted the date and time of their death, or they said, oh, I'm leaving next Tuesday at 2:00, and they said, and they leave. Now, I believe if one person is able to do that, the ability for all of us to do it is there. Now, I'm not saying I'm at that level yet, but I'm open to the possibility that when I have done everything that I came here to do, and what did I come here to do? I came here to have, first of all, have experiences, and I came here to share maybe gifts, or to share some of a bit more love. And at some stage, I'll have done everything I came here to do, or I'd have had all the experiences I chose before I came that I would have. And I say, okay, I'm out of here, and it's kind of, it would be nice just to sit down one day and say, okay, gather your loved ones and say, okay, my job here is done. I'm leaving. It's almost like packing your bags to head off to the next, but it's also, death is seen as so final by so many people that the fear around it comes to the finality. But yet, and you would be aware of this, that we're just the energy. So the energy that we are continues, so, okay, in the paranormal, it might appear as, ghosts, or it might appear depending on, whether people if they've transitioned fully or not transitioned. But it's almost like we're just we're still in the same space, but a slightly different vibrational level. And this is where mediums or people who tune into those who have passed are able to connect. And so you can connect with your loved ones. And some of the reassuring stories and accounts in Death You Gotta Love It is where you can actually do certain programs that enable you to connect with your loved ones. You don't even have to go to mediums. There are, there's one way is acquired after death. ADCI. Anyway, it's communicating with deceased loved ones.
Yeah.
Or you do a series of tapping or eye movements that it brings you into a different trance-like state or different state of awareness, and then it's easier for your loved ones to access who you are or where you are in that state. So it's not like that someone dies, they're gone, or you die, you're gone. That almost always the loved ones are looking to connect with us in whatever way they can. And what people now see somewhat as paranormal, some of the, there was a survey done in the US back in 2013, where people who had lost their partners, usually wives or husbands, they were surveyed, and 75% of them said they experienced some either direct contact or some clear indication that their deceased loved one was communicating with them, either through they got their smell or their perfume, or objects in unusual places that were significant for the people, or their favorite song came on the radio, or actually that they actually appeared, or their phone appeared.
I had that experience.
Yeah.
I had that experience. My grandmother passed away from Alzheimer's, and watching her wasn't there when she passed away, but a few hours before, and watching her taking these gasps of breath was pretty traumatic. And my biggest fear, and my mom, who was really close to her mother, they were born on the same day, was like, is she going to be confused? She had Alzheimer's and went down really quick, and I'll always remember her last words to me before she stopped talking, before, it was my beautiful boy. Like, she could kind of she knew I was somebody, and she held my hand and just said, my beautiful boy, my beautiful boy. But when she passed, I had these nightmares at first, of her being confused and stuff. Like, that day after she passed, I had this nightmare. She's looking for my mother, and she's confused. So that was in my mind. Well, the day of her wake, I'm at work. I'm getting ready to go to the wake after work, and I'm in my bathroom steaming these clothes, and the mirror is right in front of me turns black. I'm like, what's going on? And there's this little glow of candlelight that comes in the center, and my grandmother's face appears and just smiles at me, and I'm just stuck there, paused for a second, and I know it's her, letting me know she's okay. And I come out on my floor, and my associates are like, hey, something weird just happened. The door's closed up front, but there's a rush of wind that came through the store. And my most skeptical associates that would make fun of me being a paranormal investigator is like, dude, it happened, and something went through me. They had no idea what I just experienced in the bathroom.
Yeah.
And that was my grandmother letting me know.
Yeah.
I believe, that's love.
Yes, yeah, and that's, that's a beautiful experience, but it's not uncommon, but
Right.
and one of the things that these people who are surveyed, even though 75% said that they had different type experiences of reassurance, very few of them spoke about it or shared that because of fear they'd be made fun of, and it's almost okay. We need to start shifting towards to realize that there's all this other, energetic realm or vibrational realm world out there that the consciousness of the people who passes is in this, and our consciousness, we can meet, we can meet and have full-blown conversations with them. We may not be able to have the physical hugs or the holding hands, that having a physical body. Now, again, some people would say they've had it, so I would have to be careful. But that having a physical body entails. But we're more than the physical body, and that's the theme running through That You Gotta Love It. You're not the physical body. You're the energy that animates it, or the life force, or the consciousness or awareness that gives life to this body. And so it's through that mechanism that we communicate a lot of the time, even when we have bodies, or look, how are we communicating here?
Right.
Okay, we have a screen, but there's an energetic connection in what we're sharing here as well. And it's that energetic, that consciousness that for me is paramount. And the physical body is something that comes and it'll go when it's time for it to go, And so, but I will continue on, you will continue, and anyone here listening and watching this, the energy that you are will continue. It's not an end. There's no end, because nothing can end without something else beginning. So if you you can choose to see death as an end, but I would be asking and inviting you to start seeing death as a beginning, just of a move into a transition of another way of being, a different way of being. But if there's somebody else in that space, then you can connect with them and connect with them.
I believe it. I tell my favorite, I have people share their UFO paranormal experiences doing this show 10 years. But my favorite experience people share with me are the ones about loved ones who've come across to them after they passed. To me, it's the most personal thing somebody could share with you, and I'm always honored when they do, and it always touches me when they do share it, because I know how personal it was for me. I want to thank you so much, Tony, for being on the show tonight. I truly am honored to have you guys on, or have you on tonight. And people, go check out his book, Death, You Gotta Love It, Choosing Love Over Fear in Life's Greatest Transition. Any last information you want to get out to the audience?
No, I would invite people to buy the book and to read it, just to inform yourself. Please let me know when you do buy it and read it, please let me know what you think, or if you have a message, or send me, you can contact me on my website, tonymchristie.com, or social media. But I would love to hear from you. But mainly the message is a message of love. It's to move from fear to love, and that we have a choice, that you have a choice in how you are and how you be. And that it is easier and more fulfilling to choose the loved one than it is to choose the fear, because love expands and fear contracts. So expand yourself, choose love, read That You Gotta Love It, and do get in touch. If you want to keep in touch with me, I have a mailing list there you can sign up to as well. If you have issues with neglect or being ignored, maybe don't join my mailing list, because I don't message too often. But if you want to keep up to date with all that's happening with me and with what I'm doing, I'd love to hear from you. So thank you, Jason and Jane. Thank you very much for Jeannie for just the last few hours. I really enjoyed it. And
I really enjoyed having you on.
Much love, many blessings. Yeah.
All right, guys. That's it for the show. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Jamie. We will be back next Sunday with Bryce Edwards. Both of us, hopefully, our backs are good. And we had to reschedule because we both threw our backs out. But Bryce Edwards is going to be on to talk about the Pond Creek Monster over in Illinois and the high strangeness, Bigfoot and high strangeness next Sunday. I cannot wait to have Bryce on to talk about this. Thank you so much for everybody who watched tonight. Thank you to my channel members and my patrons for supporting the show. It really does help pay the bills. If you want to be interested in becoming a channel member, join it through YouTube, Patreon. The links are in the show description. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you, Tony. We'll see you guys next week.